and we should be good. I think might take a few seconds, but I see
have to stop
YouTube
trying to farm some blood of heroes. Then.
Oh no, not don't stop on our part. But hi, hello everybody. Hi Riyani. Hi Subtle. Hi Go.
Hello, boys.
Hello.
I love that you all waved at exactly the same time. That was actually incredible.
I mean, we practiced it for 20 minutes before we started.
Yeah, we better have got it right.
It literally looked like that was rehearsed. That was the most in sync wave I've ever seen by all three of you at the same time. I'm gonna have to clip that. I'm going to use that at the start of every video I do from now on. Hello from me and hello from these three. You will just do like a Mexican wave. Yeah, cool. Go. Do you want to say hello and do whatever you got to
do? Yeah. Back.
I was just trying to get you to stop farming on sod.
No, I was trying to get my audio turned up in my headphones a little bit, and I'm already done with it. I'm done because I would get too distracted. The blood of heroes I need for the 30 slot bags, and 30 slot bags in classic is so much space. So I've been trying to get these bloods, and everybody's running around getting them. It's the new thing. It's the new cool thing to do is get blood of heroes. Who would have thought that Blizzard could have made so many people chase such a legendary item, such an iconic item of classic WoW? But they did it somehow. But enough Season of Discovery. This is not Season of Discovery. This is Mr. Pandaria. This is maybe a little bit of Cata as well.
Who's Mr. Pandaria? I'd like to meet that guy.
I don't know.
He sounds like a lovely guy, though. Oh, Mr. Pandaria. He's getting a lot
of hype recently. Yeah. And tanking specifically tonight because...
Whoa, don't spoil it. Don't spoil it, man. People probably don't know why we've got these two on here. And you're just going out and saying that straight away. It might have been a healing podcast.
It would be great.
I've been playing that Mistweaver Monk like crazy, and tonight we're talking all about it.
Yeah, see?
Tanks do a lot of healing. So
Brewmaster and Bloody K, yeah. Top healing.
Mm-hmm.
True.
The secret
you got me there. Cool. All right, so before we actually sort of crack on with topics and introductions, just remember the podcast still needs a name. At any point during the podcast, you're feeling generous and you want to super chat, you can super chat one or two things: a question or a suggestion for the name. And the best suggestion, that will be the name of the podcast. We didn't get any suggestions that we liked last week, so maybe do better this week. And for questions, if you've got any and you want to direct them at either of the guests individually or myself, Go, or all of us, then, at any point during the episode, drop super chats with questions on. Go's going to be screenshotting them all. And then we've got specific points where we're actually going to stop, take a breather, and answer some questions. So obviously, anyone who asks questions, if it's relevant to what we're actually talking about, we may sort of go, oh, look, Mr. Dishonored said this, and cover it anyway. But obviously, just to support the podcast, get your super chats in, get some good questions in, so we can find out everything that you need to know about tanking and all that jazz. That's me done, Go. Let's say hello to the guests.
I don't know which one to start with because I can't stop staring at either one of them. So
can we start with the one that really, really wanted to do an orgy rather than a podcast? I think we start with that guy first.
So Scotty, nice to have you back here. The orgy master, the center post himself. We've got Subtle coming back for another episode discussing tanks in classic WoW. Subtle, thanks for coming back.
Dude, we're back. I'm excited. It's been a while. We had some good chats before in Cata. A little bit sick right now, but I gotta push through it. Like when you can talk MoP with the boys, like you do it. You can't postpone that. We gotta make it happen. But super excited to be here. And I mean, probably my three favorite people, honestly, to talk WoW stuff with.
What, is there another guest coming on? Because you can't be talking about Go.
Yeah, it's the mystery guest that we have coming later.
Someone coming later. Yeah.
Stay tuned till the end.
And classic tank right there. Man sick still showing up. If your tank lets your guild down, are they really a tank? If they call out of a raid, are they really a tank? I mean, come on. What a legend.
I just love the fact, just before we get Riyani to say hello, I just love the fact that, we was talking tanks with these exact tanks for Cataclysm, and now we're doing it again for MoP. People are actually staying for each expansion rather than jumping ship and playing Season of Disaster or Classic Anniversary. It's great to see. But sorry, yeah, go
on. Well, the other tank and also a returning guest for the 4th time, something like that. It's
3rd time, I think. Yeah.
3rd time. Yeah, we've got Riyani coming back to join us. The cloth wearing Death Knight. If you guys might have seen that Wowhead article a couple months ago, man's in Firelands tanking as a Death Knight in cloth. And I'm sure there's going to be some more shenanigans coming in MoP. So Riyani, thanks for joining us again tonight.
Thank you. Cloth Yanni is he's in hibernation right now, but he's alive and well. With 13 out of 13 done during current content and 7 out of 7 in Firelands. And now we're putting together something for Dragon Soul where we remove the nerfs so we can do Cloth Yanni pre-nerf as well, of course.
Dang.
But yeah, 3rd time on. I remember because usually these podcasts are very late for me as a European boy. And so I usually have to wreck my sleep schedule to be here. But like Subtle said, to talk some WoW with the boys. You kidding me?
Come on.
You gotta do it.
And it's good because your first time on here, it was quite a short one as well. We broke you in quite gently to the podcast. I think it only went on for about 7 hours, didn't it?
7 hours. Yeah, that's right.
Just a casual 7-hour podcast,
Yeah,
he's probably started around like midnight your time too. So
it was saw
the sun come up.
Midnight, 12:30. I think we started. Yeah, that's right.
Madness. Well, at least it's a bit earlier for us all today, so we'll all hopefully get in bed at a reasonable time. Awesome.
Probably
well,
not.
yeah, honestly, it's great to have both of you back. When Subtle said, we're probably his 3 favorite people. You two are definitely 2 of my favorite people. 100%. As I say, as soon as me and Go was like, who are we getting on for tanks? There weren't even a discussion. However, healing has been a bit more difficult. So if anyone knows of any good healers, feel free to drop suggestions in the comments of the video, preferably the comments and not chat, because if I don't look at chat, the names might get missed. But in the comments of the YouTube video would be useful, because I feel like outside of the obvious one being Geordie, I don't really know any good healers.
I try to look for one
good out there. But yeah.
Yeah,
maybe I'll drop some suggestions to you later.
Yeah, if you can, that'd be great. That'd be amazing. Maybe you can come on with them as well.
yeah.
Just get you on again. Cool. All right, so Go. Where do you want to start?
We got to catch up and see what these 2 fine lads have been up to in Cata and plans for MoP. I think. Yeah, we got to.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
That's right.
Ship it over to Subtle again. We just got to keep bouncing you guys back and forth. You love a good bounce back, right? Subtle, what have you been up to in Cataclysm? Dragon Soul's been out for a couple weeks, and I think you've not stopped playing Cata the whole time, right? You've just been going to every raid.
Yeah, I've been there the whole way through. It's been really fun. Like Cat Bloody Kid is just one of those classes you want to play like as much as you can while you have the opportunity. Kind of like Wrath Prop Alley. So just been having fun playing Bloody Kid the whole time. And I think I'm raiding like 4 or 5 times a week right now, but they're all getting pretty short now with the Dragon Soul buff coming out, or debuff, I guess, is what we got. And weird interaction with like Madness of Deathwing too with this debuff. I don't know if you guys have like followed that at all, but like sometimes it bugs out and your raid takes insane damage in the last phase of the fight with the debuff because of some rounding error. So that's been kind of weird, where like sometimes you actually have to turn off the debuff and it makes the fight easier. So but I mean, just kind of waiting on MoP at this point. I played quite a bit of the new Stormforge server when it first came out, but my guild got bored of it after like a month, so I didn't get to do quite as much as I would like to, but got to play the Brewmaster a lot, which I think is what I'm going to be maining, like Brewmaster and Prop Alley going into MoP. So definitely looking forward to that. And seems like we might have MoP Beta coming up really, really soon. Maybe next week or so, hopefully. But at the same time, I never got into the Cata Beta. But I made a separate Battle.net account this time, so hopefully we'll get it.
I'm remembering that now. Yeah, like we had you on multiple times, and every time we're like, "Did you get in yet?" You're like, "No, not yet. Maybe next wave," and then the next wave would come out. No, still not yet.
Yeah, just like bricked BNet account, I guess, blacklisted, dude. So I made a new BNet account. So yeah, right. So hopefully this time, I would definitely love to play some MoP Beta if it works out.
Have you been on any other versions of WoW other than Kata? Or no? As in, like,
I
Anniversary,
tried
Hardcore,
Anniversary. I think last time I was on here, I was talking about how I was gonna like play a little bit of Anniversary. I made it to like level 37 before I remembered like I don't really like vanilla. It's not my jam.
37,
So-
that is impressive, man. I made it to level 6. I got to level 6
Wow.
on a rogue, and then I was like, "What am I fucking doing with my life?" That was literally that was what I got like overwhelmingly swept over me, was that realization of why am I doing this? So 37, man, that's practically 60. You done well.
Yeah, pretty good, honestly. I would have quit sooner, but I had some guildies that I was having fun playing with. But even with them, I could only make it to 37. It's not my version of WoW. I'm really hoping in the future they do some stuff more based on, like TBC or Wrath or like, later versions. Because it seems like they have this fixation with like all these new servers have to be like vanilla stuff. It's like SoD was like vanilla base. You have, Anniversary, you have Hardcore. Everything like revolves around vanilla, which I mean, for somebody who doesn't like that version of the game, it kind of sucks. I wish we'd get some more like Wrath as the baseline kind of stuff, but
Agrand really likes vanilla. Like,
yeah.
It comes from the devs, like 100%. I've been saying the same thing for a long time. Like, I'm sick to death of everything that fresh that comes out is vanilla again. It's like, just give us something like, a year, 2 year long RAF server. Something seasonal based off of a decent version of the game. But hey, we can talk about that more later. And Riyani,
Yeah.
what have you been up to?
Well, no surprise here either that I've also been playing a lot of Death Knight. I feel like I'm a bit of a dad gamer. I only raid twice a week, one on my alt DK and one on my main DK. But something that is not very dad gamer-esque is that I went and switched guilds. End of Firelands and going into Dragon Soul, and our guild ended up getting world 3rd.
Oh, you're in Step Bros, aren't you?
Step Brothers, that's right.
Yeah.
The old guild of Pilov. I was not playing at the moment, but yeah, we stepped up a lot. I think we went from rank 8, something like that, in Firelands to rank 7 in Dragon Soul. One shot everything, and I think we were like maybe 10 minutes behind progress, something like that. But I mean, we were not expecting to do as well as we did, so we ended up wasting a lot of time between pulls and stuff like that because we were not going for world first. But we ended up doing pretty well after all.
Nice, solid.
Is that 10 or 25?
25. Yeah. And then some other things have happened in Kata as well. Been continuing with the YouTube stuff. Started in Kata beta pretty much. That's kind of where I started doing YouTube stuff, and then been continuing that and started streaming as well sometime in the first phase. So I think it's been like 8 or 9 months, something like that, since I started streaming. And then in Fireland sometime, I also became the Blood DK guide writer for Wowhead. So I'm doing that while also branching out into other areas on Wowhead. So that is mostly what's consuming my time at the moment, going into Miss Pandaria, a lot of Wowhead stuff. And Yeah, I'm kind of just enjoying the calm before the storm, because when the beta goes live, if my wife is upset with me being gone on a Saturday evening to hang out with the boys, then oh my lord, she's not going to be happy with me come Miss Pandaria beta.
Yeah, I think a lot of people's other halves are going to have to just look at a picture of us because, yeah, I was literally just talking to my missus this morning. Well, this afternoon, we've been at the beach all day with the kids, and I just said, you realise that when the beta starts, because I know some things. The beta is very, very, very soon, and as soon as it launches, I said, like, that's it. Like, you're barely going to see me for at least 8 weeks. After that, I'm gonna be a bit bored, wind down till pre-patch then. But yeah, I'm gonna be going disgustingly hard on the beta for at least 8 weeks. But I always like to just stop a good month before. I know we've actually got one of our topics to talk about was what our plans are for the beta, so we can sort of go into that. But I like to give myself sort of a month at the end of the beta where I just don't play it at all. Otherwise, it's just too much in it. Doing all of that and then going other than the raids. When the raid testing starts, do that. But yeah, I'm very excited.
I mean that is the part of the classic cycle though. You go so hard before anything is out, burn out, and then call the product shit.
Yeah,
that's how you're supposed to do it. Yeah,
that is it. Yeah, that is exactly it. 100%. Yeah, I mean, obviously on Stormforge, we was counting them up on my stream just over a week ago. I've leveled 21 level 90s on Stormforge.
Jesus,
that's the current
well,
season.
you get more XP though, like the stacking XP. So each one gets quicker and quicker, right?
Oh yeah, but you can only have 10 characters on an account, so I've got over 2 accounts full.
Can you? Oh man.
But yeah, and that was just this season. I love MoP. I'll be honest with you. I don't think it would be I won't say I don't think it'd be possible for me to burn out from MoP, but it would take a good few years of playing nothing but MoP. That's why I really hope that they don't rush MoP. I hope they do actually give a lot of time between raid tiers and whereas the other raid tiers are pretty shocking, as in, I'm not really bothered about the first phase of MoP being rushed because actually the first raid tier is the worst. But like Throne of Thunder, we could sit in there for 7 months comfortably, and it would be fine. As long because obviously you get a filler phase as well between each of the actual raid tiers. So it was really MoP when they started doing the 0.5s, and there's a lot of content. I just hope we don't rush through it, or I'm going to be very disappointed if. In 12 months' time, we're talking about what color we're going to decorate our garrisons.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many bosses in MoP raids. Like, I think you gotta for sure let them breathe a little bit more, because like we don't have these like 7-8 boss kind of raids like we did in Cata. It's like I think every tier is like 15-ish plus bosses, right? It's a lot. So yeah, it. Definitely let it breathe a little bit longer. Do you think we're actually gonna get WOD though?
I do, yeah. 100. Well, I say 100%. I mean, I would say like 98%. Yeah.
I think they wouldn't go to WOD if it wasn't for Legion. I think that's the end of the line. That's my hypothesis.
Yeah, and they wouldn't have gone to Cata if it weren't for MoP. Like, I agree with you. Exactly. You know what I mean? If it weren't MoP that was after Cata, they probably wouldn't have done Cata. The thing is with WOD is it's very much like Cata, in my opinion. I don't want to turn this into a WOD podcast, but it is misremembered for all of the wrong reasons. Like, it's got the best raids. For someone who enjoys raids, like the WOD raids are top tier. 100%.
Can I super chat a suggestion for the next
is it gonna be WODcast?
the WODcast.
Yeah. I actually like that. Go write that down.
I got it.
Yeah. Cool. All right, boys. Let's get into. I think. Can we get into it? I'll not miss anything. Go. No, we're good. We get into the.
One more thing with Riyani, really quick. If you've been playing any other versions of WoW other than Cata and Classic, we don't care about retail.
Only MoP. Yeah. I've been playing MoP on Stormforge as well. Kind of, I think I probably played for the exact same amount of time that Subtle did, and did the first raid tier, most of the heroic bosses and played Bloody K and just stomped the meters so hard, even on 10 man. It'll be great to be a tank. And then I got to level 22 on Anniversary Realms.
22,
Yep.
nice.
More than Scotty.
Yeah, I'm feeling like I'm really bad at the game. Like, I only made it to 6. Come on.
What class did you
Gho's
take,
probably got
Riyani?
4 level 60s.
No, I got to 10. That's it for me.
I was trying to do a dual wield Fury Warrior, all the way, but I kind of stopped when it got fun. I don't know what that says about me.
Cool. All right. Let's go into the main bits then. So, I'd like to touch on plans for beta because obviously I mentioned mine. And assuming like we all get into the beta, I do sort of think that it's going to be very, very soon. Is there anything in particular that like you're wanting to get out of the beta? Right? Because obviously it's going to be a long time. Well, multiple months before raids are even available. And on the basis that all of us have been playing Stormforge, so like all of us have probably done so many heroics, like walking into those in any time soon, we're not exactly in a rush to go and do. What is it that you want to get out of the beta, like Riyani? If there's anything specific you want to test, and then we can go on to Subtle.
Well, there's a lot of things I want to find out that aren't necessarily like going to be big time investments for things I need to figure out when on the beta. I've been, as I was alluding to earlier, I've been writing a ton of stuff for Wowhead, and there are always so many questions that come up, and like, oh, how is it gonna be? Like you said, because I'm kind of thinking about it from a Stormforge perspective. Like, I'm writing these reputation guides, and I'm thinking like, there's no way they're gonna gate Valor behind reputation, right? But who knows? Like, maybe. And so there are a ton of stuff like that I'm like, I really want to figure out. Like, okay, are we gonna have the the system of the Tiller's farm where you can start farming reputation at Exalted through your farm? Are we gonna have commendations come in at the start that once you get to Revered, so you can get a reputation boost like right away? There are a lot of questions that I have like that are gonna be answered very quickly. But then obviously my bread and butter is the Bloody K. And since I'm, doing the Bloody K section on Wowhead, I really need to figure that shit out, both for myself and also, for my guild going into progression and all that. And so we'll have some stuff to do there for sure. Need to make sure that things are similar to how they are on private server and whatever else. Because playing a Cata private server and playing the actual Cata servers, the tanks felt so different. So there is a possibility that we'll expect a certain product, and then we come to classic beta and be like, holy shit, wait, okay, I'm gonna need to rethink some things. So I'll be online on the Bloody K day in and day out, and then I'll probably be fiddling around with the other tanks as well, getting all of them to 90 and doing a thorough testing and getting a good baseline for all the tier list stuff and all of that stuff that's coming out here in a few weeks as well.
I'm really glad you said that about how they play different. You specifically said tanks, but our classes in general play different from private servers to classic, because it's something I've been complaining about when people are like, "Oh, what's the S tier DPS?" And I hate tier lists. I'll just put it out there right now. Everyone knows. I've said many times I hate tier lists because I'd take a 99 passing B tier over a grey passing S tier any day of the week. I very much value the player more than the class. Obviously, doesn't really apply to the top end. If you're like the top 1% guilds where all you've got is straight 99/100 passes, then obviously that's completely different. But for the vast majority of people that play the game, playing a class that you're comfortable with is the most important thing. But when it comes to trying to judge those things from private servers, we was looking back recently at the damage that we was doing in Firelands on, was it Maelstrom? Was the last Cata server before Well, Whitemane was it Whitemane? I've played on so many Cata private servers I can't keep
Whitemane,
up.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, whatever the last one was,
Yeah,
we was
Whitemane.
looking at what our numbers were in Firelands. Pretty much all of us playing exactly the same classes as what we was in Firelands in Classic, and the numbers are just completely different. And even like the way classes play. Stark, who's our hunter, was complaining that like a hunter on Cata private servers was mechanically was just very clunky in comparison to the way they play in Classic. I'm no hunter expert, but I'm assuming it was revolving around like lock and load. So people really shouldn't get too hung up on what's best, what's going to be overpowered, what's going to be underpowered until we really do dig into the beta. We get to 90, start gearing up, and I think it's then going to be evident.
Yeah, like just to really like illustrate the point as well, is pretty much every, I would say, top 10 guild in the world are practicing on the PTR, but also on private server realms. And when we were progressing on Spine, I was playing Warrior, and the Warrior was so bad on that server that I had to go to the beginning of the instance, talk to a guy to get a 100% increased damage buff, and I was still lower damage than I was on the PTR on my Warrior. Like, that's the kind of things that we're talking about here. How different they are. Yeah.
That's insane. Wait, what is this buff? Is that like a peace server buff?
Yeah, peace server buff, yeah.
Huh.
But they do have dampening as well, don't they? And I don't know if Whitemane specifically had dampening, but I've played on a lot of servers where they do have dampening.
Yeah, Whitemane on 25-man, what was it, 15%, I think? I can't remember. It was higher on 10-man, but I think it was 15% on 25-man.
Yeah. All right, cool. Subtle, what are your plans like for beta? Which hopefully you get in this time very, very early.
Try to just get in. Yeah, that's number one. Just hopefully we could get into the damn thing. But my main focus in MoP is gonna be Brewmaster and Prop Alley. I'll play all the tanks, but Brewmaster, Prop Alley are kind of the two I'll be focusing on. So I'll be, if I did get into MoP beta, I would be like playing those as much as I could, testing stuff. We have a lot of like OG resources, like from Elitist Jerks and other things, where we can kind of compare what the kinds of things they're saying about mechanics versus like what we see on the beta. So, just making sure those things kind of line up. And like Vengeance in particular, there's like so many little intricacies to it. And the final patch that we're going to be playing on made significant changes to Vengeance. So just seeing exactly what kind of Vengeance we have and like if it's the version it should be and stuff like that Blizzard's intending. So that's going to be a pretty big thing. For anybody who doesn't know, like Vengeance is uncapped attack power in MoP and up to your max HP, which is basically uncapped because it's very hard to get there. So tanks just do absurd damage, and like most or all of the tank healing scales with attack power too. So you just do insane healing, insane damage. It's super fun. But yeah, Vengeance would be a big thing to test out, and I would specifically focus on like Brewmaster, Prop Eye.
How comes you're moving away from DK? Someone's got to ask.
I just really like Brewmaster and Prop Eye. Bloody K is probably like my fourth choice for tank. If I get to choose, if like everything's like pretty equal, and I get to just choose like whichever tank I find the most fun. I'm sorry, Riyani, but
he's crying over there.
Bloody K is number 4 for me. Yeah, for me, Brewmaster's number 1, Prop Eye is number 2. Then Prot Warrior, Bloody K. Guardian Druid's like a very, very low, fifth.
Poor Druids.
Guardian Druid is below you tanking as a Holy Paladin. Is that bad?
Possibly, yes. Very, very possible.
That's fair.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, listen to this right here. Listen to this. 1 second GCD. Okay, listening. No cost on Bone Shield. All right. Your pet sack doesn't actually kill your pets. all of the mass grip. Did you hear mass grip? Oh,
Ooh,
the
yeah.
fluidity of the spec, the damage, the XQ. Oh my lord. Oh my lord. I don't think you truly dug into the DK and MoP because, oh my lord, that is not a fourth pick. I don't care about your opinion, man.
Can I just put it out there for a minute there? I thought he was going to defend feral druids and went the complete opposite way.
Oh, no,
Are you
no
kidding
chance.
me? Feral druids?
Everybody can agree. Guardian Druid, nah, it ain't it.
Yeah.
It's a shame
Yeah,
as well, though,
I
isn't
mean,
it?
you get 100% crit.
We'll get more into that, but as in the feral tank. But it really is a shame how they've gone from like being, pretty much a default off tank. They're really good as an off tank, and they have been all the time. Just the big thing that's let druids down actually is the splitting of the specs. Like the fact that they split it between feral tank and feral DPS just removed all of that versatility that you've got as a feral and made one spec, which is feral DPS, really fun, and it does a lot of damage in the right hands. It's not the easiest spec to play.
Yeah.
And then feral tank is like, sure, it can tank. It's like, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, it can tank and it will tank fine, but it's not going to do the damage of a Blood DK. It's not going to do the self-healing of a Blood DK. It's not going to do the single target or AoE damage of a Brewmaster Monk. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's fine if you really like feral tank, but it's not exactly, it don't shine in anywhere. Whereas at the moment, what it shines in Cata is the fact that you've only got to fill that one spot and they can do both roles in one spec and with one set of gear. Yeah, it's kind of shit.
Yeah, it's definitely fine. Like, if you are somebody who really likes the Guardian Druid, like, you could definitely play it. It's just not my cup of tea. I definitely prefer the other tanks, but if you want to, absolutely, you can play it. And from my understanding, it gets really good by the end of the expansion once you have, like, the Siege of Orgrimmar set bonus and stuff like that. But another thing we're going to be looking at on beta is, like, how much damage and healing are the tanks actually doing? Because if, Blood DK does 15% less damage on Classic than it does on P server, let's say Brewmaster does 15% more damage, that's a significant shift. That changes everything. So that's the kind of stuff we're going to have to look at, because a lot of why you're bringing a specific tank is how much damage they do. And even just like a little 10-15% damage swing each way on a tank, like that'll change everything. So we'll see what happens, but at the end of the day, you can kind of just play whatever you like the most, unless you're playing at the highest level. But for that, like, min max, we just gotta see how much damage things are actually doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Go, you've said nothing for ages. Have you got any plans on the beta? Like, when you get in?
I'm gonna try Balance Druid again. I gotta give it another chance. I tried it on the private server. Didn't feel like I was doing that much damage, especially with mushrooms. Like, mushrooms seem to really not do nearly as much as they were in Cata. And that was a really good feeling damage ability. Just popping the 3 mushrooms before a pool, getting into solar, popping them, seeing my DPS shoot up. Any sort of AoE trash packs, having a snapshot at solar, and then popping shrooms. So hopefully it feels a little better on the beta. And I might dip back into my roots of playing mage. So that'll be the first time in Classic through its journey so far that I will try out mage again. I started off in MC and BWL as mage and then swapped to Balance Druid, and I haven't gone back since. I haven't leveled another character, another class to max level since, other than Druid. So yeah, maybe my mage arc will come back and I'll get some mage going. But I feel like fire mage is going to be lower on the damage meters now. So it's like I'm going to get into mage when fire is going to be shit again. So I don't know.
Frosted up.
Yeah,
Frost is so fun, man.
PvP
I told you last week.
is always fun.
Frost is just. If I wasn't such a monk fanboy, like I could play a Frost mage main in MoP. Like, I love it. It's probably one of my most fun classes to play in random heroics, just because like Ice Lance, cleaving, Frost Orb, like it does so much damage and you feel like you're doing nothing. Like you just stood there using instant cast abilities pretty much non-stop. It feels so good. You'll love it. You'll love it. All right, cool. Lovely stuff. Let's jump in with an overview of tanks. So I think a sensible way to approach this would be for we have Subtle start, and Subtle can more or less lead the conversation around Brewmaster Monk because that's what he's done a lot of on Stormforge. And then we'll get into Blood DK second, where Riyani, you can lead that conversation around Blood DK again, going into as much or as little information as you want, covering any of the key aspects that you want. And obviously we'll just dig in as the conversation goes on. And then we'll all just have a little go at Warrior and Paladin, and again, Subtle, I'm sure you'll have loads to say about Prop Paladin. And as I say, yeah, when it comes to Warrior Druid, I've tanked loads on a Druid. Like a Druid's been my main since like 2004, so I can get by as Bear. It's only got 2 buttons to press anyway. It's easy. Anyone can do it. So let's go with Brewmaster first. Mangle Swipe. It's got Thrash as well, but you know what I mean. It's not a hard tank to play.
All right. So Brewmaster, man, it's awesome. So yeah, 1 second base GCD. You have tons of off GCD abilities. You have a guaranteed filler button you can press every GCD if you have nothing else to press. Tiger Palm, because for Brewmaster it doesn't cost G. So you're pressing something every second, which is pretty crazy. And a big part of Brewmaster also is when you hit mobs, you have a chance to summon a healing sphere on the ground. So you're going to be constantly like strafing back and forth, picking up these healing spheres. And when you have High Vengeance, they heal for into the hundreds of thousands, like each time you pick up like these healing spheres. So you really just got to be strafing the entire time, but you're also pressing something guaranteed every single second, maybe more than every second because you have a lot of off GCD stuff. So if you like pressing tons of buttons, Brewmaster is going to be great for you. If you would prefer not pressing as many buttons, you definitely don't want to play Brewmaster because it's just going to be tons of movement, strafing back and forth all the time, pressing stuff constantly. But if you're into that kind of playstyle, it's very fun. And you have lots of mobility too. You got like Tiger's Lust to give you a little sprint. You got Roll, so you can just move forward a little bit. It's sort of like Blink, like a not as good Blink. And then you got Transcendence. Transcendence is really fun. So like you put down like a little spirit of yourself. And then when you cast Transcendence Transfer, you teleport to that like spirit. So you can like set it up somewhere and then, like kite mobs around if you need to or something, and then Transcendence back. One of the like key uses for it and like challenge modes or heroics is on Gate of the Setting Sun. You like go up this elevator. So like before you go up it, you put your Transcendence at the bottom. And then after you kill the boss on the top of the elevator, you can just teleport back down to the bottom and like start the next area. So just stuff like that's really fun. And anytime you're doing cleave or AoE, like 3+ target cleave and AoE, Brewmaster is just insane. Rushing Jadewind, it does more than 1 hit every second. It scales with haste, so it just gets quicker and quicker. Each hit can proc your healing spheres. So when you have lots of mobs, you're just procking insane amounts of healing spheres, strafing through them. You're basically unkillable when you're tanking like lots and lots of mobs. And on top of that too, you just have ridiculous avoidance because baseline, you're going to have something like 10% parry, maybe 15-20% dodge, something like that. But then you have the shuffle buff that you're keeping up all the time, 20% parry, elusive brew that early on you can't keep it up all the time, but most of the time later on you can keep it up all the time. That gives 30% dodge. So you're very easily into the like 70+% avoidance. So you're not really getting hit a lot. When you do get hit, you got these healing spheres, you're like strafing through, picking them up. And then you have the stagger mechanic too. So stagger, like when you take a hit, you take a percentage of the damage right away and then a percentage of the damage over 10 seconds. So you take a huge hit. You're not actually taking the whole hit at once. It's really nice. You're taking some of it right away and some of it later. And with Purifying Brew, you can just get rid of all that stagger you have built up. So you can just choose anytime you want to not take that damage that you kind of were just saving for later. So, I mean, Brew just has so much going on. It's like so unique compared to other tanks that I find it to be the most fun tank that we've had. Did you play it at all, Riyani? On
Oh yeah,
Stormforge?
yeah.
How
I
did
was
you
playing,
find it?
I find it fun, for sure. And I think all the points that you're talking about are like very good selling points for the guard for the guardian for the for the brewmaster. And I have a ton of fun with it, like running through dungeons and stuff like that. But I do find it not that fun on single target. But
It's definitely more fun on AoE for sure. Like
For
when
sure.
you're getting chi from your rushing Jadewind, it just opens up so much, and like all the healing spheres you're getting.
yeah, for sure. I have only played it to like pre-biz gear farming and stuff like that, and like I think I did a few bosses with it in the in Motion Vaults. So I don't have enough experience to really have a super informed opinion about it, but I do think that it's a pretty fun class, and it's going to be the class that I'm probably going to be playing as my second main, and maybe something I will have to main, depending on the rate tier and the encounters when we're racing as a sweaty, nerdy guild. I can especially see that being a thing in the first rate tier with the tuning that we have on Stormforge at least. So
Yeah, like Blood UK Brewmaster, is that kind of what you're thinking right now
yeah,
for tank setup? Yeah.
yeah.
Yep,
Obviously,
that's
we'll
exactly
get
what
way
we're
more
going.
info with beta, but that's kind of what's looking really good right now.
So back on Brewmaster though, I mean, they're so versatile, and I'd almost say quite they could be played by anyone. As in they are fairly easy just to pick up and play. But there's definitely there'll be a big difference between a good brewmaster and a bad brewmaster. I know you can say that about all classes, but like, just as an example, when you were talking about shuffle and keeping shuffle up, if you've got downtime where you're not getting hit, like there's going to be a lot of probably controversial views from me on how to properly play a monk when I actually start getting into the specs themselves, because I don't see anyone doing it, and I've done it for years, literally since 2014, and that's actually stance dancing as both Mistweaver and Brewmaster. So, like, as a Brewmaster, going into your Tiger stance when you're not tanking actively, so if the boss is doing something where he just stands there channeling or doing nothing, obviously when you're in Tiger stance and you jab, it gives you 2 chi. So you can, like, in a 10-second period, you can stack your shuffle so high rather than just sitting there in Ox stance and doing nothing. And it's the same as well with, I know it's not about Mistweaver, but Mistweaver's the same. Like the amount of chi that you can generate so quickly in Tiger stance shouldn't be overlooked, by any tank. You might think, oh, I don't need to do that. I don't need to go into that stance because it's for DPS. But like, I do it every given situation, because you shouldn't lose your vengeance from it. It's not like vengeance is tied to Ox stance. So yeah, it should still just be ticking down. It's the normal rate. But yeah, be it like stance dancing properly just adds another, another just something nice to do. Most of it's going to be handled by macros. Like, yeah, I have a macro that puts me in Tiger stance and uses Russian Jade Wind. Like, that's as a primary example if you're a Mistweaver, because it costs a shitload of mana. Whereas if you go into Tiger stance, it costs energy, so it's free. And changing stance costs nothing either. You're not actually going to, it's not like cost energy or you lose energy or anything like that. I mean, I love it, man. I'm really, really glad, Subtle, that you're going Brewmaster main, because I look forward to talking to you about Monk in general a lot over the next couple of years, hopefully.
The one thing I will bring up as well with Brewmaster is that I don't think it's a super hard class to play. However, you will notice right away, very first pull of every dungeon, you will notice when it's a bad brewmaster. Holy. Sometimes you'll if you were going into kata and you sometimes had the experience of like, holy shit, this DK is insane, but this DK is like falling over. That's kind of gonna be an over like way more exaggerated in MoP in my case, because if you are a bad brewmaster, then I think the people that you're playing with are gonna have a bad time as well.
Yeah, when they roll in or clash, they clash in and they die in 2 GCDs.
Yeah. Like terrible at keeping up, your active mitigation and stuff like that, and yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a class that's hard to master for sure. There's quite a bit going on with it. I would say it's honestly the hardest tank we've had so far in Classic. I don't know. I haven't played everything extensively on MoP, so I don't know how ultimately it would compare to everything. But at least all the tanks we've had thus far in Classic is for sure the highest skill cap, I would say.
Yeah.
Possibly.
All right, cool.
Is there one you would say is higher skill cap?
No, I just haven't gotten to play at that level yet, so I can't really say. If you think about the Pareto curve, I'm at the first 80% of the knowledge base, and I have the rest of the 80% of the time to spend to learn the last 20%. And
sure.
So not sure yet.
It's got a really big toolkit as well. Sorry, Go. It's like the toolkit of a Brewmaster Monk is like massive, but most people just won't use them properly. Like they'll just pick their talents and then stick with them. Like the difference between Dampen Harm and Diffuse Magic, for example. They're massive on a fight by fight basis. Using Zem Med properly. Like the fact that you can more or less like completely negate one really, really big attack. I love that. And even guard, so guard for anyone who ain't, that savvy with Brewmaster Monk is kind of like your 30-second cooldown big absorb shield, but you can make it do 10% more and then it'll only do magic. So like even using that glyph properly, there's just little things where you'll notice, like a monk on Elegon not using Glyph of Guard, is just gonna probably fall over. I like that. I like that. It's a thinking tank spec, I would say.
Scott, that was going to be my question. Like, is there like a cookie cutter talent build, and same with the glyphs, or is it? Sounds like it's a fight to fight thing because we've got the whole new talent system coming in. A lot of things shifted to being baseline. As you're leveling up, you're getting stuff baked into other abilities, and don't have to spend talent points on them. But yeah, now they're abilities. So you were saying Dampen Harm and Diffuse Magic, you're going to be swapping out. So is every single talent like tier going to have differences depending on the fight and the raid?
I mean, there is like kind of a general setup you usually use, but like Diffuse Magic, Dampen Harm, that's like the most obvious just fight by fight change you'd make. It's literally just, is the most dangerous damage in the fight magic damage or is it physical damage? That's pretty much what that choice comes down to. So you just kind of have to know, what each fight does, and that's the one you're probably going to be changing the most. Tiger's Lust is kind of the general played for like tier 1. Chi Wave would be the general played one for tier 2. Tier 3, early on, Chibru is really good because you don't have the resource generation that you have later. Once you have more gear, you generate so much elusive brew through crits, and you have more energy from haste that Ascension eventually takes over. But early on, Chibru is amazing. It's kind of like Rune Tap for Bloody K. It just gives you instant chi. So when you're playing Ascension, you want to play you want to hold 2 chi basically at all times, just so you can press guard anytime you need it. It's off GCD at high attack power. It will be more absorbed than your max HP is like insane. It's like more than an extra health bar. So like if you're playing Ascension, then you're playing at 2 chi at all times just so you can always guard. If you're playing Chi Brew, you can spend all your chi because you have that on-demand ability to get your 2 chi when you need it. And Chi Brew has 2 charges. And also it means you can start the pull with an instant blackout kick to get your shuffle up. And you can have an instant elusive brew. So it really helps on like damage taken like right on the pull. So Chi Brew early on, very good, but Ascension will take over for sure. Then the next tier, I mean, leg sweep is generally what you're going to play, but it kind of depends. In raids, this one's not going to be like super impactful all the time because there's like limited things you can stun. Diffuse magic, dampen harm, we already talked about. And then for the last tier, rushing Jadewind is like your highest damage ability. If you're fighting 3 or more targets, it gives you a chi also. So even on single target, you want to have rushing Jadewind up as much as you can. But it's hard to sustain, especially early on, because you just don't have as much resource regen or resource generation. But later on, you'll be able to keep it up a lot more easily. But when you are fighting 3 or more mobs, you're getting 1 chi every time you press it. So it just fully replaces jab at that point. For the most part, you may run into some rare situations where you need to spend energy, but you don't have like Keg Smash or Jadewind to press. But in general, yeah, you're going to be running rushing Jadewind. You may use Duyan at some points, the White Tiger. I'd have to see some like new sim stuff on that. I'm not sure exactly when that'll come into play, but I mean, rushing Jadewind's like your top damage, so it's hard to really give that up.
Yeah, Zuen later on down the line. Again, exactly when we just won't know at the moment, but because it scales with attack power, so it scales with vengeance, you can get off disgusting Zuen uses. Like we're talking where it literally does more damage than you do. You know, it's like, but yeah, obviously when it would be guessing. I know there were certain fights in Siege of Orgrimmar where it would do, just literally millions of damage used at the right time. But yeah, I mean,
Speaking of,
go on, mate. Go on.
I was going to bring us. Speaking of vengeance and snapshotting and whatever else, one thing that Brewmaster definitely has going for it is that because they have these like insanely big damage reductions through Sandmed and your dampen talent trees, you are able to cheese vengeance very hard as a Brewmaster. They have taken away obviously the vengeance system that you had before, where you could just stand in fire and get a ton of vengeance. Environmental damage doesn't give vengeance the same way. But still soaking mechanics that aren't really supposed to be soaked. There'll be many that you can do that with, but one thing that comes to mind is maybe Garrosh in this little when you get teleported away. You're not supposed to stand in it, but with good cooldown management, you can, and you get a ton of vengeance, you do a ton of damage, and Brewmaster is definitely they have the biggest single ability damage reductions of any tank by far.
Yeah. Also, we should mention, I don't know if it was already mentioned, but you actually get vengeance from avoidance as if the attack had hit you.
Yeah.
So even though Brewmaster is avoiding 70, 80, 90% of the attacks coming at it, it's getting vengeance as if those attacks had hit. So that's one of the really crazy things is like you're not even taking damage, but you're still getting tons of vengeance.
Yeah, and I think it's a big thing, or a big obviously the shift in mentality in Classic versus back in original MoP or like original Cat or original Wrath. We know now that it's not really about like your tanks being tanks. Like, yes, you're there to hold aggro, but there's really no such thing as like a proper full tanking set. You know, it's all about how much damage can I put out, and that is massively amplified in MoP. And like the damage that tanks are going to do is it's disgusting. Like it's disgusting, but fun. It's the only I'm going to be tanking. Like I'm going to be tanking in MoP. Obviously, I've like off tank as a druid, basically all the way through classic, but as an alt. But like my actual main monk is going to be tanking full time, and I can't wait. Just because it don't even feel like you're tanking. That's what I love about a Brewmaster monk. Yes, you've got to be clever with your cooldowns. You've got to know what you can cheese, what you can't cheese to get maximum vengeance, when to use the right talents, and obviously all that will come just with getting reps in on the bosses for everyone. But on the most part, you're just looking at the damage meter like, oh, I'm shitting on all of these people that are actually DPS.
I think this will be a good point to bring it up as well. But and I think maybe if you were if you're a little DK Discord lurker or a Guardian Druid Discord lurker, you might have the philosophy that actually I am a tank, so my biggest responsibility is to take the least damage possible. And if you bring that mentality into Mists of Pandaria, oh boy, are you going to be a burden to your guild.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, like Subtle said, the healing spheres, which are plentiful. Yeah, they're plentiful. It's not like you get one healing sphere every couple of minutes. There'll be piles of them next to you. And like Subtle said, well, because they scale with vengeance, you could be healing for like 100+ K each time you walk in one. So who gives a shit if you take loads of damage? It's not actually putting your healers under any more pressure because you're going to be healing yourself.
Yeah, that's like one of the craziest parts is it's like the more damage you take, the more damage you do, and the more healing you do, which allows you to take more damage, which then gives you, allows you to do more damage and do more healing. It's just like this infinite loop of like the more damage you take allows you to take more damage in the future and also do more damage, do more healing. It's just so crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else you want to touch on with Brewmaster monks in general? Oh, I'm sure we'll be coming back to it a little bit anyway. This first bit really with just a bit of an overview to each tank. So it's not like, oh, we're done. We're not going to talk about Brewmaster anymore. But if there's anything you want to touch on.
Sure. For challenge modes, they'll be like the number one choice. So if you're somebody who's like really interested in pushing challenge modes, this would be the tank you would want to bring. You'll be able to get like gold on every tank if you want to, but if you really want to like push at times and stuff, then Brewmaster is going to be the one.
I want to ask about what you think about challenge modes, all of you, because this won't really change the fact that Brewmaster will be the best, but on private servers and back in original days, even though Vengeance was changed in the last patch, it was not changed in challenge modes because it didn't just want to wreck the leaderboards. But going back into to MoP, and there not being no already established leaderboards and being no real reason for there to be nerfed or not to be nerfed Vengeance in challenge modes, do you think they're going to be rocking with the original version, or do you think they're going to actually have the nerfed Vengeance going into challenge modes as well?
I would really like them to just do it like they did back in the day, so we can actually like compete against the OG times. Like, there were some like absolute gamers and like Method and stuff back then that were pushing crazy times.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the guys that still do like World First Racing today were like absolute gamers back then. So I think it would be really cool if they just kept it as it was back then, just so you could actually like compete against those old times. But at the end of the day, it wouldn't be, a huge deal for me either way, but that would probably change the tank rankings quite a bit because, you get the diminishing returns on like the more mobs that are like attacking you. You get diminishing returns on Vengeance gain. So for like Brewmaster, that'd be a very, very big nerf if that was in challenge modes for sure.
Yeah. See, I'm kind of with Subtle as in I wouldn't mind. Whatever way round it wouldn't really bother me as long as it stayed that way round for the whole expansion. Whether it was just standard like post challenge mode vengeance, or the sort of nerfed version, as long as it stays exactly the same. I honestly don't care, because the one thing I'll say about challenge modes is that's one thing I've played on all seasons of Stormforge, and then two MoP servers before that, before Stormforge was even a thing. And challenge modes has never actually been something that I've done on private servers at all. I still walk around on my monk on retail today in its gold challenge mode gear. I've got the hunter set, paladin set, priest set. Like, I used to do them a lot back in original MoP, but just never wanted to bother on private servers. And the main reason was I remember him being an absolute bitch and was like, what's the point of doing them on a private server? Until recently, and I was like, this is just not even difficult. Yeah, it's not. It's nowhere near. If you remember it being hard and you remember spending a load of time doing it, like, you're probably misremembering like I did, because having done them recently on Stormforge, really, I'll be completely realistic. It was probably like 40 minutes of prep and then 20 minutes of execution. For each dungeon, it was like 40 minutes of us. We didn't watch any videos. Like, we all of us never remembered what the routes were. So we'd do a couple of dry runs just going through and being like, oh, we need to kill this pack. We can skip this. We can invis potion here. We just literally worked it out for ourselves. And then obviously done it. Like, to put it into perspective how easy it is, Gate and the Setting Sun, we literally was one mob off of actually doing it on gold the first time through, without a meta comp, without anything. But in Gate and the Setting Sun, you guys will know what I'm talking about. Obviously, you jump down and kill the big beetle boss, but you can't get back up. So we had time left. Like, we could have just gone and found one mob to kill and it would have been done.
Mm-hmm.
But because we were stuck down there, like, we just had to reset. But they're not difficult at all. I mean, people on the private server leaderboards and back in original MoP, would be running without a healer. You just have a Brewmaster tank and 4 DPS. So I'm looking forward to them, but they're just a little bit like, I don't think people should get mega excited for them being like, oh, the first version of Mythic Plus, because they're really not.
Yeah, I think the more interesting thing is gonna be like competing for the times, because you actually get like a title from being the rank 1 time for any of them on your server at any point. I think what is it called? It's not Mistwalker. It's something along those lines, though.
I think it is Mistwalker.
Is it Mistwalker? Yeah, maybe it is Mistwalker. But I mean, that's gonna be pretty fun. Competing like for the title. So I think that'll be like the main thing that keeps challenge modes pretty interesting for people. Although, like, early on, obviously it's gonna be a little bit easier to get that, and then it's gonna get harder and harder as like people keep like min-maxing these times, and it just kind of gets a little tougher as the expansion goes on.
Thank God I'm on Golem Mag.
Is that like a low pop server? I really know about EU. Is that like low pop?
No, it's one of the bigger servers,
Okay.
but it only has one super competitive guild on it. But
okay.
I was on Gehennas before. Then I think it would be rough. Which is where Progress and all of the other Newman, whatever else is.
All right, time for some DK, Scott.
Yeah, Riyani. So I was just reading people
right.
talking about the titles, because obviously you get temporary titles. I just wanted to just chime in because I'm reading chat. You get, like, for as long as you hold the fastest time on the server. It depends on what dungeon it is as to what title you get for the temporary titles. So it's like Gate of the Setting Sun's Defender of the Wall. Someone just said, Scarlet Monastery is Scarlet Commander. I can't remember them all, but yeah, like, each dungeon has got its own specific title that you get if you hold the current fastest time on the server, and you'll keep the achievement. If if someone beats your time, you'll keep the achievement, but you lose the title. So only 5 people on the server can have that title at any given time, which I think is fantastic. Like, that's the best bit about it. You're walking around with a title one that only you and 4 other people have physically got on the server. Like, that's proper bragging rights.
Yeah,
people
absolutely.
Look at you and you're like, holy, that's a big.
The Mistwalker one, though, Mistwalker one is a permanent title, though, right?
Yeah, that is.
Isn't it different?
Yeah, is that something to do with, like, at the end of the season? you get that. So was that like the
I think it's just
WOD
at
pre-patch
any
when you get it or something?
time. I think it's just at any time if you had a rank 1 title, you get it. I could be wrong.
I'll have a look. It's I'm not sure about that one. Attained 1 or more realm best times during the Mr. Pandaria challenge mode season. Yeah, did that? Yeah, but that was added in WOD. Yeah, so that was we wouldn't be able to get that until.
Okay.
Yeah, because again that's to recognize your achievement for the first season of challenge modes, because then in WOD we get the second season of challenge modes. So I don't think we'd be able to get that into the WOD pre-patch, but like again, don't quote me on that. That was just a real quick look on Wowpedia because it weren't a title that I was familiar with, to be honest with you. But cool. Okay. We went off on a bit of a tangent, didn't we? Talking about challenge modes there. Sorry.
Trying to wrangle us back in. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go on to Blood DK then. Riyani, take it away.
Blood DK. All right. I hope you guys have buckled in for this one. Hope you're sitting down. Hope you are ready for something great here, because you may have heard some content creators here online, not naming any names, slandering the name of the Reds. Yeah, saying that it's a 4th pick. I mean, come on.
Ooh.
Who are these guys and what are they smoking, huh? I want none of that. All right, let me give you a little rundown about what Bloody K is all about. We got 1 second GCD. Say it with me, everybody. 1 second GCD. Can you believe it?
One second GCD.
1 second global cooldown.
I wanted to say it as awkwardly as possible.
It is fantastic. It is so smooth. It is just wonderful. All right, that's where we start. Pretty good start. No cost dancing room weapon. Dude, that is nice. No cooldown on outbreak. Bro. You get free resets off your dots every time you blood boil, which you do a lot. Very nice. You have a no cost, no ICD bone shield. That's pretty damn nice. You have a 2-minute cooldown on your pet, and the pet does insane damage. You have an army that does insane damage. You have mass grip. You have AMS that gives you runic power again. You now have an incentive to stand in bad shit again like you did in Wrath. Fantastic. You have insane execute damage at 35% HP. Insane. You have... Okay, I hope you're sitting down for this one, because this one is pretty damn wild. You have a cheat death mechanic. Oh my lord. Oh my lord. You think you're dead? Nuh-uh. Try again. You have a 50% heal on Death Pact that doesn't even kill your pet. You can spread your diseases with Blood Boil. And wait till you hear this. 75% of your parry becomes crit. That you can actually start gearing for defensive stats and gain offensive utility. I mean, I don't know. Do we have anyone in the chat that is not hyped to play Bloody K right now? I mean, for real. There's no way.
I'm just really confused why you seem this hyped, yet you're going to go Guardian Druid main. Like, I'm just really confused by all of this. You did confirm that right at the start of the episode, didn't you? That you was going to be a Guardian Druid.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about my alt.
So wait, how does this cheat death thing work? Is it like a mage where they come back like a cauterize, where they lose health after they've gained health after they were about to die, or is it like a rogue?
So I'll get into that, but I just saw a guy named John on the YouTube comments commented that Bloody K is boring. If we could just have a mod go in and ban that guy. Thank you.
Start.
Okay, so Purgatory.
I'm on it.
Purgatory, it works in a way that you take like the damage that would have killed you. So let's say that you have 100k HP. You take a hit that is for 110k. Then you get put into Purgatory for 10k HP. What does that mean? Well, it means that if you don't get healed up that 10k within 5 seconds, you gonzo, you dead. It didn't save you. But if you do get healed up, then you get rid of the purgatory buff. You get a 3 minutes debuff. I think it's 3 minutes or 2 minutes, and then you live. But if you are in the purgatory state and you take more damage, so let's say that you get down to 10k purgatory, and you take another 50k, then you need to be healed up for 60k in order to get out of purgatory. So you're basically, if you think of Dante's Inferno, you're kind of you're in this state of, you're not in hell, you're not in the living realm, you are in the in-between on one of the layers of the Inferno. You need to get brought up by your healers.
You could say you're in purgatory.
almost, yeah.
I don't believe in that stuff. No.
It is great though. I agree with you. I mean, the amount of times at one of our blood DKs has procced purgatory and then just instantly gets a lay on hands, or just all the healers just need to just funnel him just to make sure that he don't die. Like it is incredible. Like it is an incredible, and the fact that it's not like I'm saying blood DK, but it's a talent. Every DK gets it. Like which is even more insane than it actually just being for tanks.
Yeah, but and then another thing that every DK gets is AMZ. Definitely nerfed. Well, it's not nerfed really, but it's instead of being capped with absorb damage, it's a flat magic damage reduction. So you had a way higher upside of amount of damage that you could reduce in Kata with the way that AMC worked then. If you had all the damage come in at once. But if you have slightly delayed damage in a short window, then this version will absorb way more than the AMS of Kata did. But as a tank, you'll primarily play Purgatory unless it's really necessary. There may be a case for it if you're solo tanking the first boss in Mogushan Vault, for example, and you have that big explosion going off. That would be good for that. But for the most part, you're still playing Purgatory. To kind of go down the basics of how Blood DK work, it works very similarly to how it does in Kata, in my opinion, with a lot of small changes and some other nuances that you have to take into account. But it's revolves around death striking. Building up an absorb with your mastery, healing up the damage that you take. You also have an ability called Scent of Blood now, or a passive, I should say, that basically builds up a % healing buff whenever you do some avoidance type of stuff. If the boss misses or if you parry, you dodge, whatever, and then you. And then that scales with your absorbs as well, so you have way more ability to build up a big absorb for before a mechanic. But you don't really play around it. You don't really not Death Strike just because you don't have Scent of Blood stacks.
Mm-hmm.
It's just another thing to give you some passive power without having to be something that you actively think about too much. Like I said earlier, with your execute, you do have an execute which is called Soul Reaper. That basically puts a debuff on the target. It does damage when you use it. Kind of similar damage to a Heart Strike, pretty much the same. Slightly less. But then after 5 seconds, you do a ton of damage. That damage is scaling insanely well for you. And so you definitely want to track health percentages on the bosses, and you also want to have a add-on that will, or Wikara, that will tell you the time to death on targets. You don't want to waste your damage by going up too late. But if that happens, it's not the end of the world, because you get a 50% haste buff for 5 seconds if the target dies with the buff up. which of course makes you regen your runes quicker. Like someone said, Bloody K scales less with vengeance than other tanks, and that's true because we were talking about healing earlier and how you have you have Brewmaster orbs scaling with vengeance. You like heal like crazy when you have high vengeance. You have barrier from warrior kind of scales like crazy when you have your vengeance. You have eternal flame from prop alleys, scaling with vengeance. But all the healing from Bloody Case does not scale with vengeance. It scales with the amount of damage that you take, like how it does in Kata. So when some of the other tanks can pull like crazy healing out of the bag just because they have an insane amount of vengeance, you don't really have the same ability to do that as a Bloody King. But you're still very, very strong. And the thing with not scaling insanely well with vengeance either is that you just kind of just do your job really well without vengeance too. Like even playing now on Stormforged, going in with low vengeance at the start of the fight, you can easily like be top of the meters without like even having to get vengeance, abusing vengeance. You do your things really, really well, and you have a lot of fun pressing your spells. It's very quick, very fluid. You have a ton of cooldowns, a lot of maximizations, no snapshotting really, except for your dots. Which there's another mini game kind of going on with Bloody K's where I was talking about earlier how you get instant refreshes with your debuffs when you blood boil. There's like kind of this mini game that, I know I'm gonna have a lot of vengeance for this moment. I want to refresh my dots now, and then if I'm gonna drop vengeance at some point or go low on vengeance, I want to use my heart strike instead of my blood boil because I don't want to refresh my dots while I have no snapshot, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Did you bring up bloodworms at all? Also,
bloodworms, another good one, of course. They work pretty similar to how they do in Kata, but they are doing work. Like if you're talking about raid utility, bloodworms is actually like a raid utility thing for sure in Mists of Pandaria, where you will often look at the healing meters. You will see like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm a Bloody K, I'm topping the healing, that checks out. But then you hover over your healing and you find out that, hey, wait a minute, 50% of my healing is from bloodworms healing the raid. The raid would have wiped if it wasn't for a bloodworm proc that healed for 100k on everyone in the raid. So that is definitely not utility to sleep on. It's quite strong.
So go on, so.
Sorry, I was just gonna bring up the raid healing part. Like, I don't think I mentioned it for Brewmaster, but Brewmaster has kind of a similar thing with the Ox statue. As you do like X amount of damage, it puts an absorb effect that scales with attack power on closest part of your raid member. So one of the big things tanks bring is just insane raid healing too. It's not only like huge damage, huge self-healing, it's also huge raid healing, which is like one of the really crazy parts. So like, I mean, Bloody K's got their bloodworms going off. Brewmaster's got the Ox statue absorbs. Prop Eye's got Eternal Flame they're throwing on people. I'm not sure about Druid and Warrior, but those three for sure got, insane raid healing.
I mean, even massive like chi bursts or, chi wave when it's not actually bouncing to you, it's bouncing to somebody because that will always go to the person on the lowest health because it's a smart heal. And one of my favorites is actually Chi Sphere, to be fair. Zen Sphere, to keep up, because you can keep it on 2 targets. Like if you're stacked and with higher vengeance, like the AoE healing that you can put out as a Brewmaster on top of with the guards going out as well is absolutely disgusting. And then you then stick a DK in, who's the other tank, and you got bloodworms going off. And I'll be honest with you, like, I know we've only spoke about these 2 tanks so far, but a lot of people have called me mental over the last couple of weeks. And obviously, you get these people who, think that they know everything
Only the
because
last couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, yeah, more so
Right.
over the last couple of weeks since I've been spreading my blood DK propaganda. Apparently, because they, they look at the old Warcraft logs. They've gone the way back when machine thing, and they'll see prop paladins were the broken class. Why are you not saying that prop paladins the best? And it's like, man, like, come on. I've seen time and time again what blood DKs do in the first phase, and I genuinely think the two strongest tanks in phase one, and I'm talking the first raid tier, because everything's going to shift from the end of the first tier to the end of the second tier, and then everything's going to shift again from the end of the second tier to the end of the third tier. Like, prop paladin will come online to the point where it is absolute god mode, where it's got those levels of haste where you can be getting like so much chi generation, and you can keep everything up that you need to keep up, and be able to get really big eternal flames up. Their time will come, but in the first phase, I don't see a world where blood DK isn't as strong as it is now in Cata.
Yeah, I mean, it all just depends on beta, right? Like, if some of this tuning on private servers, like, even just a bit off, in one direction or the other, like, it'll change things. So, I mean, kind of just gotta wait and see. Like, people want to, like, get tier lists and stuff out early, and, like, I mean, they're looking at, the only data we have, which is, 12 months of Siege of Orgrimmar or something on Warcraft logs, and, by then, things get kind of wild. Definitely, you can't make any assumptions about things for phase one based on 12 months of Siege of Orgrimmar. So there's that, and then there's like Stormforge, right? So it's like private server, which is probably mostly accurate, but that maybe 10% or whatever that isn't accurate. Maybe that changes everything. We kind of just gotta wait and see.
Yeah, I totally agree. As in, we can only work with what we've got, but the people that are basing it off of Siege of Orgrimmar is just like, and there's so many people
That's
doing
pretty
it.
wild.
Yeah, I'm just like, man, have you not played Classic? It's like, is this your first expansion? Like, we know, and especially a lot of people are like, well, how do you know we're going to get 5.4.8 tuning? It's like, man, come on.
It's always been.
It's 2025.
We have so many expansions already of that.
Yeah, it's like we know exactly how it's going to be.
On the point of like prop A specifically, though, it is definitely very likely that they aren't going to be as good early on, because one of their core mechanics is how haste scales with them, and you just don't have as much haste early on. So they will get better and better, like, until they get haste capped. So
I think it's one of those subtle. Like, I know you're going to go prop paladin. Obviously I'm not, so mine's a completely non-biased opinion. But they're perfectly fine, even in the first phase, aren't they? Like, they're perfectly fine to play and to tank on. But I don't know. From what I've seen, like Lee, who's our main blood DK, and like he's literally played every tank on Stormforge in heroic raids as our tank. And he's damage on a prop paladin, even though his survival's not bad, as in it's not like he's falling over, but he's the actual output on the paladin with them low levels of haste is just so low in comparison to like Brewmaster, Blood DK.
Yeah, they're just very, very reliant on gear. So I think we'll for sure see them come online during Throne of Thunder. But I mean, you never know what might happen if things are a bit off between private server and beta.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sitting on my tier list, and I'm so ready to release them, but I just need to wait for beta. I need to be patient, man. I need to do it.
Yeah, I don't reckon you're going to be far off, though. Like, I know you've played a decent amount of Stormforge as well. Like, I'm pretty confident on what I think's going to be like. Yeah, maybe not in order. But I'm very confident on what I think are going to be the top 3 tanks, the top 3 melee DPS, the top 3 range DPS, and the top 3 healers.
Oh yeah.
It's when it gets past those top 3 where it's like, don't know. Is enhancement going to be stronger than feral? Is rec going to be stronger than enhanced? It gets a bit more complicated then. But I think in no particular order, knowing what the top 3 are going to be, I'm fairly confident on that side of things. And Blood DK is up there, definitely. At 4. Sits in at a solid 4. It's everyone's
Well,
fourth choice,
gotta,
right?
I gotta go to bed. It was nice hanging out with you boys, but
Cool. All right,
I'm
let's
talking
move
pure
on.
fun factor also. Just by the way, we gotta throw that out there. So nobody misinterprets.
yeah, we'll see.
Go. Sorry, I think you was trying to chime in.
Just curious because a couple people were asking about haste for Blood DK and is there a haste cap that you're trying to get to? Can you reach that in the first phase of MoP? And is that gonna affect your your rune generation or something like that? Like with the haste, because you get crit from, you were saying what your dodges or your parries or something like that. So I imagine you don't really have to stack crit. You're going to be reforging towards haste or mastery.
Talking about Blood DK?
Yeah, for Blood DK. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to like the way of gearing in Cataclysm is gonna be sticking around for Blood DKs, I feel like. Where I've been a big proponent of this from the start of the expansion, that Blood DK gearing exists on a spectrum where you have where you should be on that spectrum. It will depend on what kind of content you're doing, what your goals are, and like how far along you are in the phase. And so whenever people ask me like, hey, what's the stat priority for Blood DK? I'm like, I don't know. There are 4 different stat priorities. Like, what's your goals, man? Gonna be very similar in Miss Pandaria as well. You won't really need to go mastery at all. Because you have the huge mastery buff that you get from paladins and whatever else it is that brings it. So you just get like baseline 100% mastery just from that buff alone. Like, you're super solid there, but it's still a very, very good stat to go into if you want to just focus on survivability. You know, if that's your goal, you know, whatever you know, if your guild can get shit down without you needing to meet the DPS check as a tank, you know, then that's fine. You know, that could be a viable strat for some more casual guilds. But what I think most people will go down is a more balanced approach, and that includes getting primarily parry as your primary stat, because you do get the defensive benefit. But then you also get 75% of that benefit as crit, and crit is your best offensive stat, which, you know, later on, probably not, you know, week 1, you're gonna be stacking crit like crazy. But you know, going for that balanced approach, and probably what most people are gonna be rocking very early on, is gonna be parry as your primary thing, because that's what you scale the best with, and then you know, dodge coming in after that. Haste seems pretty whatever right now, but we'll have to see with Sims and with everything like that. But yeah.
Do you feel like you're like pressing everything or pressing something every GCD with kind of the baseline amount of haste, or is there like room for improvement?
Like, kind of, but not always. You have to keep in mind, I don't know if I told you this before, but Blood DKs have a 1-second GCD, right? Don't know if I communicated that before. But yeah, there are definitely moments where you're like, okay, I don't really have anything valuable to press right now. But that also gives you some moment to think about, you know, when to press your abilities and tracking your blood shields and stuff like that.
Maybe some time to think about re-rolling to a Brewmaster or Prop Ally also.
During those times where you're thinking about what you're going to press next, Subtle's mashing his 2 key, which is Tiger Palm. He's like, I'm just going to keep pressing this.
He has no time to think.
Zero thoughts happening, only Tiger Palm.
Hell yeah.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Well, let's. I think we wanted to leave Druid till last, didn't we? We wanted to leave the best till last. So.
My main till last. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really quick too. While we're kind of on the topic of stats, we should mention how expertise changes, because it's actually kind of important for your tanks overall. So now instead of like the first portion of expertise you get, like reducing your chance to be dodged and parried, your first 7.5% only affects chance to be dodged. So that they kind of made it so it's like more, there's like DPS expertise, so the like tank expertise. So first 7.5% expertise you get only affects dodge. And then the second 7.5% you get only affects parry. So 15% total to cap. But you like as a tank, just in pre-bis gear, you're gonna be hit capped, you're gonna be expertise hard capped. It's like really easy to get to. So before your first raid, you're already gonna have that covered. It's just something you're gonna maintain like the whole expansion. But don't like look at the first bit of expertise as being way more valuable than the second bit. It's literally the same value the whole time. It's just whether or not you're pushing off dodges or pushing off parries.
Yeah, cool. What tank do you want to do?
I think it's
What do
time
we
for
have,
Subtle to talk
warrior or
again, so
paladin?
let's do some prop power stuff.
Should we do some ballet? All right, yeah, let's go paladin. Let's yeah. Let's give Subtle something to do for, I don't know.
Sure.
Can you fill about 30, 35 minutes so I can go and watch an episode of Ted Lasso? I'll be listening.
Yeah. Are they a sponsor of the show? Like, I mean, you keep bringing them up, and I don't know. It feels like this podcast might be sponsored by Ted Lasso
yeah,
on
it's
Apple
sponsored
TV.
by Ted Lasso. It is. Thank you for
It's
also
the name of
mentioning the
the-
Apple TV bit. That's another 10% I get. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, no problem. Just looking out for you. Trying to keep the podcast going.
Legend. Go on. No, let's go Prop Pally then. Give us a bit of an overview on Prop Pally.
So I just got preface with I've basically leveled a Prop Alley. I haven't played a ton of it. So I definitely have some knowledge gaps on this, but I could go over like a lot of the changes data versus like MoP. So one thing you're going to be really excited about if you played Prop Alley and Dragon Soul is that the Judgment giving Holy Power set bonus is now just a baseline thing. You're always going to have that. It feels great. Judgment feels way better when you actually get Holy Power from it. Also, you're going to have a max of 5 Holy Power, which feels a lot better than the 3. So you have some room to bank Holy Power and generate some Holy Power without, fearing wasting Holy Power. Your rotation, I'm still figuring out the rotation a little bit, but in general, one of like the main things is Crusader Strike and Hammer of the Righteous do like no damage. Like all they really do is generate Holy Power. A lot of your damage comes from like Avenger's Shield, Judgment. Consecration does a bit more damage than it did before, and the cooldown is lower again. It's not 30-second cooldown anymore, which that felt awful. If you played Prop Alley and Cata, I mean 30-second cooldown consecrated, and that doesn't really do much damage, and baseline costs like all your mana. It felt pretty bad. So that will be changing. You'll be glad to hear. And we alluded to it earlier, but you have a new passive where haste will reduce both your global cooldown and the cooldown of all of your rotational abilities, essentially. So Holy Wrath, Crusader Strike, Avenger Shield, all that stuff. It's going to have reduced GCD, reduced CD. So once you get a lot of haste, your rotation is just going to be insane. You're pressing stuff way more often. You have really short cooldowns on your abilities. And it feels good. You'll also get Avenger Shield resets on, I believe it's dodges. I can't remember exactly what it was. I believe it's on dodges. It's like 20% chance when you dodge or something to reset Avenger Shield. So when you're fighting multiple mobs, you just kind of get to spam, which feels awesome.
Parry or dodge.
Parry or dodge.
Yeah,
There it
parry
is.
or dodge.
30%
Parry or
chance also.
dodge.
30% chance.
Thanks, Go. Cheers,
Thank
Go.
you, Go. Thank you, Go.
You're welcome.
I just want
and
to
it-
mention one thing as well, Subtle. You were talking about
Yeah.
consecration.
Sure.
The glyph for consecration is just insane. I'll put it on screen so people
Yeah.
can see it. But turning consecrate into Death and Decay is just pretty special.
It's not I don't
Yeah.
know how useful it always is, but it is cool. I definitely remember running that back in the days and being in love with it.
Yeah, it's very nice. So it's just a
Good weak
good
arm macro
glyph.
or mouse over macro for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Subtle, Karen.
Yeah. Oh no. That's great addition. Let's see. So yeah, I mean, Prophecy just plays so much better. If you didn't like how it played in Kata, like they kind of keep sort of the theme from Kata of like all the holy power and everything, but they just make everything way better. It feels so much nicer to play. It felt so like kind of slow and clunky in Kata. All that stuff gets cleaned up. It feels really, really nice. Shield of the Righteous also off GCD, so you're gonna be able to do a much smoother rotation. It also gives you active mitigation. It's gonna give you like a damage reduction buff when you Shield of the Righteous. So you'll take a lot less damage. You'll do damage off GCD. It's fantastic. And your Word of Glory / Eternal Flame, which is an upgraded talent version of Word of Glory that puts a hot on a player for 30 seconds. This is going to be crazy. Once you have lots of haste and you can just like pump these things out, you're going to be doing insane raid healing with this, putting this on other people. And it's one of those things that's going to separate like good or like okay prop eyes and really good prop eyes is their use of Eternal Flame for raid healing. And yeah, just overall the class feels way better. You do get some mobility too on like first tier of talents. You can choose essentially a sprint, or you can get some passive movement speed based on how much holy power you have. Or when you judgment, you can get a short little sprint. So, I mean, Prop Eye is one of its big things is it's had like no mobility the entirety of Classic. So finally, get a little bit.
Yeah.
Also, there's a talent. Let's see, Holy Avenger feels awesome. 2-minute cooldown. Abilities that generate holy power will deal 30% additional damage and healing and generate 3 charges of holy power for the next 18 seconds. So you pop this thing and you can just go crazy, throwing out Shield of the Righteous, throwing Eternal Flames on everybody. Like this thing feels so fun to press because, I mean, once you have some haste and you have really quick GCDs, you're just constantly racking up 3 holy power, 3 holy power, 3 holy power, and it feels amazing. Feels like a better version of Adrenaline Rush, basically, for Rogue. Like, the amount of like combo point generation you get is very, very fun.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of. Well, I won't. Like, I'll be completely honest. I won't say I'm a big fan of Prop Pally, but I'm a big fan of Pally in MoP, and it is one that I've like kind of hyped up a lot because it in my opinion, like Blood DK, whilst it's great, you know, or DK in general, Unholy Frost, like just DK in general is great, but it's great now in Kata as well, you know, and it's still great in MoP and gets extra things. You know, you can almost say the same about Druid, and say the same about Warrior. Warrior's great in Kata, it's great in MoP, it just gets more stuff, whereas Pally's clunky as fuck in Kata, like all 3 specs, and then becomes great in MoP. You know, I think in terms of which class gets like just the sheer best upgrades, I think Paladin takes it all day.
It's got to be Prop Ally, I think, yeah, for sure. It's just night and day difference. Going from, I mean, they went from that buttery smooth 969 rotation we had in Wrath into whatever the fuck the Kata one is. It's just not. It's like my least favorite tech rotation maybe of all time. But then you get the MoP one. It's like, oh, all this stuff they were like kind of trying to do in Kata, they actually like fixed it and made it good, and it just plays so nice. It's if you're like a Prop Ally gamer, like a lot of people who follow me started out when I was on Prop Ally and Wrath. We're back, baby. We're back. It's Prop Ally time again. If you've been missing playing your Prop Ally, you switch over to Blood DK in Kata, but you really like playing the Prop Ally, MoP's where it's at. Prop Ally is just so nice in MoP. You're definitely gonna enjoy it, I think.
Prop Ally is probably my 4th favorite tank, I would say.
What the fuck?
1 second GCD, and I really wanted Subtle to go deep in there.
I mean, you get that haste, you get that 1 second GCD.
We'll get down to probably shorter than 1 second GCD. But yeah, I mean, I'm just
it can
messing
only go to
around.
1 second, right? Can
Isn't
it go
it?
lower?
I don't know, I'm not sure, but yeah, you do.
I mean,
have
if it
a
could
lot.
go lower, that's great. But like historically, it's capped at 1 second. I could be wrong.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, Prop Pally feels great. I have a level 90 Prop Pally. I haven't played much at max level, but honestly, like all the way leveling up is you have a good time. Like we were talking about Pursuit of Justice earlier, or not Pursuit of Justice, but like the movement speed. And like leveling up with 3 points, 3 holy power at all times in Pursuit of Justice, running around permanently at what is it, 45% speed? Dude, that is nice.
30%, 15% base, and then 5 per holy power up to 3.
Yeah, that's right. That's
yeah,
right.
but I mean, it feels incredible.
Yeah, aspect of the cheetah all the way. You know, once you get Eternal Flame, that stuff is just healing you for like crazy amounts. You're just soloing all dungeons. You're having a ton of fun. Ultimately, when you have a ton of haste later on in the expansion, you're just gonna be spamming buttons so hard. I think the rotation kind of ends up being like every other global is a Crusader Strike or Hammer of the Righteous, and then every other global is something else. Because your cooldown just gets so low on Crusader Strike that literally becomes every other global that you press that just to generate holy power.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how that all shakes out because I wasn't able to find like a super reliable source on like best prop high rotation, and obviously it's gonna change too, like based on your haste. So that's one thing that's definitely gonna benefit from simming is just at like what haste levels do you do like what rotation, and then you have the like every time you dodge a parry, your Avenger Shield gets reset and it generates a holy power. So like obviously that makes it more dynamic too. But yeah, I'm very excited. Hopefully we can get some of these sims up and running pretty quick and start learning some stuff about this rotation.
But yeah. I think we need when it comes to haste, we need to find a number that becomes a meme in the tank society.
Yes.
And then we need to find ways that the sims are wrong about what they're suggesting. So that is the project for Mr. Pandaria right now. We can have a uprising in the tank discords all around.
That's the goal. Yeah. Scotty and Go, in case you weren't aware, very early at Cata, I made a video about haste being a good stat for Bloody K, the best overall stat. And Bloody K Discord was not happy about it. It turns out a year later, everybody plays haste Bloody K. So I guess it worked out.
I remember you saying that when we had you on, yeah.
Yeah.
People were like, "Yeah, haste, huh?"
No one likes change. You can't find anything new, mate. If it weren't on the elitist jerks forums from 15 years ago, it don't count. All right, like that's just how it works.
I'm playing Lichborn and deathcoiling myself right now. I saw it on the elitist jerks, and
we're gonna be stacking mastery. A tank's only job is to live. Damage doesn't matter at all. We just need to get that mastery as high as we can. That's all we care about. We're gonna stack Stam too. Because I mean,
I need to.
Maybe we'll get one shot, dude. I mean, we're out on anything that's not stamina haste or mastery. Sorry, Freudian slip there.
I'm gonna clip that exact section, and I'm just gonna put worst podcast guest ever.
And of course, after mastery, we go for dodge, right? That's reduced damage taken per second, reduced healing needed from healers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I've heard if you
honestly,
stack dodge, you don't need healers in the group.
Gear. If a piece of gear doesn't have mass and dodge on it, I'm not even equipping it on any tank, honestly. I mean, tank's only job is to live. So
if it doesn't have dodge, mastery, or parry, it's not a tank item.
I mean, parry like gives you parry haste and makes you do a little bit more damage, and we don't want to do damage as tanks. So I'm kind of out on parry. We need to do as little damage as possible. I think that's the route. We gotta survive as much as possible, even beyond like a point that actually makes any amount of sense at all.
I feel like we made a real
just gotta keep stacking
breakthrough here. This is brilliant. This is
100% survivability isn't good enough. We could go 150%. We could go 200%.
Well, this is bringing back memories though of tanks. It might have been Subtle's fault that we're trying to get DPS gear, and the DPS is like, "Hey, like, is this really your biz?" And it's like, "Well, Subtle made a video, and then he said, I need haste." So you might be getting some loot distribution conversations happening in guilds because of this whole breakthrough in haste.
I do think that a lot of Red Pallies and Arms Warriors and Holy DKs, Frost DKs have a big hatred for both Subtle and I when it comes to gear, especially because that was the beginning. Actually admitting that haste is a good stat was the beginning. But I mean, now we're so far down the rabbit hole of going, full crits and expertise, hard cap, and shit like that. Girthalak, dude, that is a bloody K weapon. You cannot tell me otherwise. Oh yeah, my biz trinkets. That is Vial of Shadows from Dragon Soul. That is a tank trinket. That's Scaling with Vengeance. Tank trinket. Bone Link fetish, tank item.
Tank trinket.
Yeah.
I believe in Throne of Thunder, there's like a haste passive trinket that has like a healer proc or something that Prop Alley takes. I haven't played Throne of Thunder yet though, but I heard about that. So maybe healers got to be prepared for that.
Everyone needs to be prepared for the degeneracy of what's going to go on with tanks. Because I don't think anyone's seen anything yet. Kata was just a start, as I say in MoP. Yeah. No one's going to use tanking trinkets. Like they're in the game, but they're no such thing.
Yeah,
so
you actually get so sad when you see like a stam or mass trinket as a tank.
Are we going to see prop pallies wearing dresses again? Because they're going to be the new class wearing cloth in MoP. So it's going to come full circle all the way back to Classic, where pallies ran around with dresses the whole expansion.
There is some, I remember some intellect shenanigans going on in like once you get to Throne of Thunder, but I haven't looked deep into that enough to comment. But I mean, if you're talking about Cloth Yanni type of dress action.
Pallet, yeah.
Then I think that one is that ship has sailed.
No.
But I mean, you could probably still play cloth and be fine, but I don't think you'll be doing that as a trying to kill things for the first time type of thing. But yeah, there are a lot of healer items that you'll be using as a prop alley. One thing that comes to mind is in the first phase, your this shield is intellect haste shield, because there's no other shield in the game with haste at that point.
Yeah,
it's just such a crazy version of the game where like secondary sets become so valuable because you have so much attack power just kind of baseline from the vengeance you're getting that it just amplifies the hell out of any secondary stat. So like Brewmaster, I mean, I think across the board, tanks like get the most damage just from crit, because it turns out when you have like 300, 400,000 attack power, just doing double damage on those hits is like the best thing you can do. And then there's also synergies, obviously, like for Brewmaster, you got Elusive Brew. As you get more crit, you're getting more like dodge, and those dodges actually still give you vengeance. So yeah, man, it just becomes a huge secondary stat game.
Yeah, definitely for tanks and for some DPS. Like Arms Warrior, much later on, will be stacking crit as well, just because they actually start getting so much strength that the value from crit is just higher than going for straight strength. So they'll just be gemming crit, getting crit on absolutely everything, even taking skin in. It's a kind of one-off. I don't really know of any other DPS classes that are going to be leaning that heavy into secondary stats, but tanks, yeah, certainly. And it goes back to when obviously talking about prop pally, which we'll move on from in a second. But when it's an easy way to get a lot of haste, it is by just gemming straight haste, or if you want a socket bonus, going like stam haste, or it's an easy way to actually start being able to press more buttons.
Yeah, I don't know if we brought it up before, but it's actually very hard to hit your vengeance cap. Like the amount of damage you have to be taking to actually vengeance cap is so insane that stamina is almost never actually going to give you more attack power by like increasing your vengeance cap. So when we're talking about these stats, that's one thing to keep in mind too, that the stamina is usually just going to be more HP that you don't actually need if you're like pressing your buttons correctly. So like coming from Kata where like stamina is very valuable, that's one thing to consider.
Yeah, I think one thing we haven't talked about enough is active mitigation. I think especially with the prop pally, it's definitely a good time to bring up as well. Like the big thing with Mists of Pandaria tanking is that every single tank moves into an active mitigation playstyle. And active mitigation means that basically through your rotation, through your offensive output or defensive sometimes, you have a mechanic that basically allows you to minimize the amount of damage that you take through playing optimally. And for every single tank, you've basically not had that at all up until Kata, where Bloody K became kind of the first active mitigation tank in the game. Part of the reason why they're just so far ahead of everyone else is because they actually have that system, now in expansion early. And they keep that into MoP, but then every single other tank gets their own version of active mitigation. And so when we talked about Brewmaster earlier, that was Shuffle you get from using Blackout Cake, and elusive Brew, which you basically you need a ton of haste, I think it is, right, to keep up. But then for prop pally, the big reason why they're so good, need so much haste, is because they need to keep up their Shield of the Righteousness, which gives them a baseline of 38% reduced damage taken when you include mastery. And then that scales higher when you have more mastery. So let's say that you have at least a baseline of like 45% reduced damage taken because of the 3000 mastery that you get from the buff. That means that whenever you have that up, you are very well off. But if you don't have it up, you are kind of squishy. Like that's the reason why people are kind of bashing on prop pallies in the first phase, is because you just can't have it up the entire time. It gives you a 3-second buff, and you just don't get enough haste to be able to keep that up for the entire time in phase 1, and so you do end up being kind of squishy, and you need to play in a way where you maximize uptime for when you're tanking, and you become more of like an off tank, so to speak, in the first phase, because you can't really effectively main tank without high uptime on Shield Righteousness. And we'll get to the other active mitigations when we talk about Prot Warrior and Guardian Druid. Is that a spec?
Well, it's like it's a feral druid.
I've heard of it. I don't know if it's real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We'll take a look at it though. Maybe investigate. But yeah, they also have active mitigation, and so you won't have that like outlier like you did in Kata, where it's just like you have one spec that's just like randomly so much better than everyone else for that one specific reason.
I think every Guardian Druid just left the chat.
There's been a lot coming in. A lot are
actually the count actually went up. So I mean,
look, we can spread some Guardian Druid propaganda saying they're going to be the best tanks in phase 1 or something, just to make people feel better. But maybe we wait till the 1st of April or something, and then we'll do that. All right, look, let's move on to Warrior then, and then we can at least cover the Warriors' active mitigation and like general additions that they've got and stuff. And I've got to be honest, this is actually one that I'm quite excited to talk about, because I love what Blizzard have done or what Blizzard did with Warriors back then. as in I think they're in a really good place overall. Like the quality of life changes that they got, the additions through talents that every spec gets. Like I think Warrior is in a really good place, and it's definitely not a tank that people should write off, because they do actually put out. I don't know if either of you guys have been in raids with a prop warrior like in the first phase of content, but they actually put out incredible fucking damage. Like really, really good damage. And their intake of damage is relatively smooth as well, to be fair. Not really that spiky, but who have either of you actually like tanked as a prop warrior at all?
I've played one while leveling a little bit, but definitely not very knowledgeable yet.
Yeah, I have a level 90, and I have, run the some of the previous gearing and whatever else. But no, they're great fun. But if you have some good experience with it, maybe we let you handle this one.
No, I haven't. No, not with prop. I've leveled a warrior. I do very little on a warrior in general. It's not particularly one of my top classes, if I'm completely honest with you. I completely understand how they work and all their additions and everything, but in terms of if they're fun to play, I don't know, because in MoP I only ever play arms if I'm ever going to play a warrior.
All right. Well, I can take a prop warrior then, because I think they're in a pretty good spot. I think it's funny because prop pally basically goes from being super clunky and super unfun, in my opinion. I'm sure I'll get some hate for that. In Kata, into being a really, really fun spec and also becoming really viable as a consequence of them actually like fixing the spec. Whereas Warrior, I don't think necessarily become more fluid or anything like that. I think the Kata Warrior feels fantastic to play. And the prop warrior in this area can feel a little bit clunky at times. That being said, they have certainly been fixed in viability and how they play, because Kata warrior was just certainly not it. Okay, so we're talking about active mitigation before, and prop warrior, they have 2 spells that act as active mitigation, and one thing to keep in mind as well is that pretty much every active mitigation tank, which is all tanks, have a choice between 2 types of active mitigation. So as a Brewmaster Monk, you have the choice of keeping up high active mitigation with your stag or with your chi to funnel more blackout kicks and keep up that debuff, or you can choose to use your chi to, well, 1, do damage, or to purify some of the stagger that you build up. So it's like you have this one portion that's active mitigation, then one portion that's like healing or reducing incoming damage, or like built up damage. On prop pally, you kind of have the choice of going, do I spend my holy power on healing, or do I spend my holy power on active mitigation? And on both warrior and guardian druid, you have the choice of do I spend it on active mitigation in form of the shield block, which is a 100% block increase for 6 seconds. Or do I take that rage and spend it on shield barrier, which is like, imagine ignore pain, but miss a Pandaria. It's an absorb. So you have to make that choice, and usually one is preferable for like physical attacks and one is preferable for magical attacks. I don't think that's really going to be the case though, when you, especially in 25-man, when you have high vengeance, because the absorb obviously scales with vengeance, and at that point you just like have so much vengeance that you're going to be taking less damage by going the absorb route. But you at least have some really valuable active mitigation throughout the entire expansion. It's really nice. You also never really have the issue of being rage starved in terms of like not being able to press your abilities, because that can definitely happen in Kata, where you're just like, dude, I have so many things to press, but I just don't have any rage, so I can't press anything. That it sucks. Now basically all spells, rather than costing rage, generate rage. So you have, your Devastate and your Shield Slam, and actually I don't think Devastate actually gives any rage. It's kind of like a filler, like Tiger Palm. But basically everything else generates rage instead of costing rage, and then it's your active mitigation that costs rage. If you have an excess of rage, you can use Heroic Strike and Cleave, but generally, especially early, that'll be funneled into your active mitigation. One of the big parts, of course, of the Prot Warrior, or any warrior at all, is that you have your banners, which will be a very, very big incentive to be brought to raid, giving you a 20% crit damage.
1% crit damage for 10 seconds. Yeah, pretty insane.
Yeah, and especially when you have the insane crit levels and the snapshot trinkets that you will have in Throne of Thunder. That's going to be pretty wild, and obviously your raid is going to love you for bringing that. You don't have any spec or any stance specific abilities anymore, so you don't have any stance dancing going on. Even if you only had a very limited amount of stance dancing in Kata, for a Prot Warrior at least, you don't have to worry about that anymore. And you also have Shattering Throw, because you don't have to go into battle stance for that. However, I know a lot of people will be disappointed. It still does have a cast time. So you'll still have to cast your Shattering Throw, but yeah, you'll at least be able to use it in defensive stance now. You lose vigilance in the way that you had it in Kata. Now instead, it's a spec specific thing, or not spec specific, but a talent that all warriors have, and it acts as a pain suppression of sorts, giving a 30% decreased damage, and then you can also spam taunt like during the vigilance cast, but you can't taunt spam like you could in Kata anymore.
Honestly, that change alone is like one of the biggest, I feel like, for tanks, because like all the arms warriors in your raid can give you a damage reduction now. So you can just cycle through like a million vigilances, combo with like pain suppressions, your own stuff too. So you could effectively have basically a 30% plus DR on you at all times, or at least dangerous times for sure.
Yeah, when you start thinking about all the classes that can, and by the way, Eiffel, yes, yeah, the VOD will be on YouTube, so you can go to bed safely and watch the rest of this tomorrow. When you think about the sheer amount of externals that you can get now, yeah, like if you've got a Prot Warrior, let's say, and an Arms Warrior or two, straight away. Just with that, you've got like 36 seconds of 30% DR, and then Druids. If you've got Resto Druid, they've now got Iron Bark. That's another 20% DR. It's crazy. Imagine like on Algalon where you had to set up a whole rotation of externals on a tank at all times. It's a breeze to do that in a 25-man in MoP. I reckon you literally could have something up 100% of the time. With the right comp, without going mad either, without like mad stacking of classes.
For sure. Yeah, your toolkit is just overflowing. Like your personal toolkit's insane, and then you look at the additions like your raid brings to your like defensive toolkit too. It's through the roof. There's so much you have. That like K's, or I don't know how you pronounce it, but K's or whatever weak aura that you can set up ahead of time with like MRT nodes for like this person uses this at a certain time. That's going to be pretty essential, I think. It's already very, very good to have that, but when you have, maybe you have 5 armors warriors in your raid, that's 5 vigilances you could add to like an automatic like cast MRT node K's weak aura. and like setting that stuff up's gonna be huge.
Yeah,
And
and
you know,
even
keep in mind that,
symbiosis, getting another personal
Yeah.
cooldown if you're the right class.
Absolutely.
Like, mad.
Well, what you don't want to happen is what happens in SoD right now, where druids have bark skin. You can have a rune that allows you to cast bark skin on another player, and it lasts 20 seconds, and it's a minute cooldown. So you can have like 3 of them up or something, or you can have 3 druids keep it up like 100% of the time, and you'll have tanks that are just like bark skin. It's like, oh, okay, which druid do you want to bark skin you, bro? Like, so having a note set up ahead of the fight is what I'm getting at with this. Like, please, raid leaders, have something set up like this so you're not just calling for a random external defensive to get cast on somebody.
Oh,
Paint
in
suppression
SoD, you should
now.
have someone doing it every
Yeah.
minute. Like literally, yeah. In SoD, you should have that set up so you know it like there's no reason not to. It's one GCD for the tank to be taking 20% DR. Like it should just be, yeah. Especially in the Scarlet Enclave where shit actually hits hard. That's just standard, mate. Standard.
For anybody who's not familiar with the weak aura too, basically what it does, like you set up an MRT note beforehand, and then with this weak aura, it'll put on that person's screen, like, hey, in 5 seconds, you're gonna cast Vigilance on Subtle, for example. And it gives them like a countdown. It's like cast Vigilance on Subtle now. And you can have all that stuff like pre-set up ahead of time. You don't have to like comment anything. It's already set up. It tells them on their screen like when to press it, and you can just automate it.
Yeah, and that will
Sounds
be
like
important in MoP, like definitely. And to be honest with you, it's going to be more important from the aspect of sort of a raid leader not having to track 27 different cooldowns, even just in a 10-man raid. Like there's so much that you're not going to want one person worrying about that when you could spend 30 minutes the night before just going, oh, we'll use this here, there, like done, forgotten about. Because there is that many externals, like obviously Riyani mentioned the crit banner, but they've got 3 banners. I mean, only 2 of them are really useful, but you got demo banner as well. That's another 10% damage reduction from everything that's near the banner on a 3-minute cooldown. If you've got a few arms warriors, that's it. Like there's so much that you want to put in rotationally, and then when you think about like skull banner. You're going to want that up if you've got multiple warriors. You want to cover the entirety of Bloodlust. So it's not even defensive cooldowns anymore, is it? Like we need to be managing offensive cooldowns like Stormlash and Skullbanner as well. Like MoP raiding and the reliance on weak auras is going to be wild in MoP, definitely. Yep. Like from what you'll see the good raids doing. I'm looking forward to it. All right.
Maybe
well,
that's why
is there
as much.
Anything else on Warrior?
My non-weak aura have an ass.
Yeah, I mean, we I think we still have some decent stuff to go through. I mean, one thing as well is that I was going through the pros of Blood EK earlier. I don't know if I mentioned that they have a 1-second GCD. But no. I also mentioned that they that they get 75% of their parry as crits, and that is something that Pro Warriors do as well. They're the only other tank to also get that. And they keep their rend spreading, but they're not rend spreading anymore. Rend is removed as an ability. So instead, you just thunderclap and spread your deep wounds to all the nearby targets, and that's the thing that's going to ultimately like scale you to do like insane cleave damage and like AoE damage on a consistent basis. But it is really nice when you're doing dungeon spamming and whatnot to not have to go in and do like charge, rend, thunderclap, and that whole sequence being 4.5 seconds because of your GCDs. Now you only go in and charge thunderclap, and then you're set on threat. You don't have to worry too much about that anymore after that. Then you can do and go in and just spam your other abilities. So that's kind of nice.
Maybe a look for the talents, like any key talents. Obviously, we've already touched on vigilance.
Yeah, I also want to bring up on that row. you still have Safeguard. Safeguard is still like an absolutely insane defensive cooldown. Like you have 30 seconds cooldown on a 20% second external. Like that is, I'm doing some quick maths, calculating, scanning. That's 20% uptime from one person alone on an external defensive cooldown. Like that's wild.
It's really nice. And like one of the big drawbacks of Safeguard in the past was that it reduced their threat also, like by 10%. So like in Wrath, it was a little bit hard to use because it would lower the main tank's threat by 10% every single time you pressed it.
Yeah.
But now with like that threat component, not that it probably matters a lot in MoP, but having that as something you don't even have to think about now is very nice too.
Yeah, you don't have the threat reduction anymore either. So,
Yeah.
then I think the only other interesting section to look at in talent tree would be like Bloodbath and Stormbolt and Avatar. But I mean, even that you're probably just gonna run Bloodbath the entire time pretty much, and then if there's a particular single target check, then Stormbolt might be good. But yeah, I think it's pretty cookie cutter talent build, to be honest.
Yeah, I think like Warrior gets a lot of the amazing changes that you spoke about. But like overall, they still, I know this is going to sound really weird, but they still feel very, very Warrior. It's like a lot of the familiar abilities. Like it's not gone through drastic changes. It's like if you like Warrior in Cata, you're gonna love it in MoP. To be fair, because it's just more fun to play than it is in Cata, and a lot of the clunkiness is removed. But like in general, where would it rank in like in terms of tanks for you? Like obviously, I know yours is DK top, Riyani, but like where would you put Warrior?
Probably 4.
Okay. And what about you, Subtle? Yours is.
No,
I thought Profile was 4. Is everything 4?
I think everything's 4. Yeah.
It's DK
1,
DK.
everything else 4.
Yeah.
No, I would say that's Prot Warrior. It actually might be my 4th tank. In number 3 or number 4, I'm like going between Prot Pally and Prot War. And I was originally thinking Prot War number 3, but then I started playing Prot Pally on the on the non-kosher servers, and I was like, holy, this actually kind of feels nice. So when I put some more hours into them, we'll probably have more of a. I'll have a better answer for you there. I do want to mention one thing though. One thing that we that is a big change that isn't very warrior-like is that auto attacks no longer generate rage.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one thing as well that changes quite a lot in my opinion.
Yeah, you have to be in battle stance, right? I think that's the change. You generate rage from auto attacks in battle stance, and defensive stance only generates rage from being hit.
And every 3 seconds you generate rage in defensive stance.
And just the passive,
yeah.
Yeah, maybe that could be a stance dancing type of thing as well. Then
I've heard there is potentially some stance dancing at like the top end warrior can do to min max, but I
probably not
don't have experience with that myself. I can't really speak to that. But as far as like where it kind of fits in, at least from what I've seen, it's kind of like in general for 25-man you want like Blood Decay or Prot Warrior as like your main tank, and then for the off tank you're looking at like Brew or Prot Pally. That seems to be kind of how the tanks divvy up. I think you can probably just kind of play whatever you want, but it looks like more of the min-max approach is you kind of separate them between mid-tank and off-tank.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, well, I mean, I feel like that was a good amount on Warrior, and that's all the tanks covered.
Yep. Hope you guys had a good evening, and do it again sometime.
Yeah, cool. See ya.
Bye.
Is it? Have we forgot anything? Priests? No, they don't get Any?
Shaman have tanks.
Oh,
right?
Shaman.
tank.
Yeah. I suppose
Rogues are tanks now
Mob
too,
control.
right?
Oh, rogues have got a lot of defensives and
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah,
rogue tank.
we could talk about rogue tank. No, I don't know.
No, but I'm actually kind of more excited to play Guardian in Mists of Pandaria than I am playing Feral in Kata. Primarily because I think that in Kata, like going into Cats was a good time. Like that was fun. But that was the only redeeming quality about Druids, because being in bear form in Kata was a miserable experience. Like nothing you did, no abilities that you pressed mattered at all. And as long as you were pressing something, you were getting all of the defense utility out of your rotation through your mastery proc. But
Yeah. Like Berserk Mangle, I think was like on 3 targets was the only thing that like felt good, probably.
Yeah.
For Bear.
Yeah. Exactly. And so yeah, I am actually kind of excited to be playing a little bit more Druid, even if it does mean that you're not gonna be stance or no what's it called, shapeshifting anymore, just to do the advantage changes. But there's some potential for you to do some of that still. If you run with what's it called,
Heart of the Wild.
Yeah, Heart of the Wild. But the jury is still out on that, and that would be worth it. Or if you even go cat form when you want to do damage with the Heart of the Wild, or if you do some Moonfire spam, or whatever you do. We'll have to see that with on the beta.
But yeah, I mean, so Feral Tank then. Let's touch on it a bit. I mean, any of you wanna take it? Obviously, I'd rather one of you two done all the tank talking. I've done a lot on a Feral Tank. I could bore everyone for a long time.
Yeah,
but they've not really changed a lot. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I'll briefly talk about it, but I think maybe you can chime in on some of the nuances. But basically, we talked about it earlier about the active mitigation. You have 2 types of active mitigation, with one of them being your main active mitigation, giving you 45% dodge for 6 seconds. So that's the thing that you're aiming to keep up at all times. 45% dodge is not bad when fighting physical targets, but it's not going to do a lot when you're fighting magical damage. And for that, you have a frenzied regen, which is transformed from a cooldown into something that you can just press off cooldown. It has a 1.5 second cooldown, which is your GCD, unlike Bloody Case, of course, as we already know.
What's a Blood DK's GCD?
That's 1 second. I don't know if I told you that before.
Okay.
But yeah.
No.
One.
Good to know.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. And so then it competes for rage with your other active mitigation. So you have to be careful not to overheal yourself, because then you don't have enough active mitigation with the dodge, and so it becomes a little mini game of optimizing your uptime with that. Mastery get changed. You don't have the absorb anymore. Basically, you get armor instead. Kind of just passive armor increase with mastery. So a little bit boring, I would say.
They're very boring.
Yeah. But yeah, then it kind of just becomes a case of using Mangle, using Swipe, using Thrash. You don't really use Maul a whole lot, because it's competes with your other, it competes with Rage, with your other active mitigation and your healing. But when you have either a proc to use Maul, or if you are just have a ton of Rage, then you can use Maul as well. But that's probably going to be more of a later thing, because later on you're going to have 100% crit on Guardian Druid, and then you can just do whatever the hell you want because you have so much Rage. Yes, Symbiosis, I think it's a pretty good one to mention. I don't want to talk about like every single spell you can get with it, but it's basically something that you put on someone else in your raid, and based on their spec, you will get a cooldown from that spec, and give them a cooldown from a druid, which is a really cool thing. Like if you as a tank on like a Blood DK or a Prot Warrior or whatever, get a Symbiosis from a Druid, you get an additional defensive cooldown for free, which is very nice, and then they get something from you as well. I think where a lot of fun for Guardian Druids is going to be, at least later on, is how you optimize your damage with your talent options with Incarn, Salt the Forest, or and the Heart of the Wild, and then for the most part you just stay in bear form, because you obviously do more damage with the Vengeance than you would do as a Guardian Druid in cat form. You don't have the same feral options and the same talents that you do as a feral Druid, or you have the same talents but not the same passives and whatever else. So you don't do as much damage as in cat form anymore. So you're just gonna be sitting in bear for the most part.
One thing, I don't know if we mentioned it, but when you taunt as like the off tank, you get 50% of the current tank's vengeance. If that's an increase for you, like it brings you up to 50% of their vengeance if you're lower than that already. So like taunt swapping is a good way to like keep vengeance high on both tanks.
Yeah, and then of course you have the 20-second timer as well. So yeah, you'll not really be in the same situation as you are in Kata, where you're just like, oh, I'm an off tank. I haven't taken a hit in 2 minutes. I don't have any vengeance. Not really gonna be the same situation in MoP. You actually be able to rotate vengeance a little bit at least.
Yeah, just to chime in just on a couple of things when it comes to feral, like obviously what you just said about like losing most of the cat abilities. It's unfortunately all of the biggest abilities as well. It's like going in cat form feels terrible as a Guardian Druid, and like I said earlier on, like right as we started talking about tanks, the biggest downside to being a Guardian Druid now is that split between feral tank, feral DPS. Like some people will see it as a good thing, but I can more or less guarantee the only people that will see it as a good thing are the feral DPSs. The people who like almost feel forced to tank because they're a feral and don't actually want to tank. They'd rather just be cat all the time. They're gonna love the change. But as someone like even me to a certain extent, like I really like being the off tank that's tanking at important times, but really being like really trying to maximize the amount of damage, the amount of time I can spend in cat form. That's literally why I love Druid in Kata. I'm always happy when I'm on my feral, because even though it might be a boss where I don't particularly want to be tanking, I'm just me and the other tank are trying to work out how I need to tank as little as possible just to be pumping.
Yeah.
And you just completely lose that. So like that is the one thing that I don't like. But when it comes to sort of self-healing, like Dreamer Cenarius is absolutely amazing, by the way. Like as Guardian, taking Dreamer Cenarius and then being able to heal in touch like yourself, it's literally it will be your top healing as a feral. Like I can't imagine many circumstances I would even play a feral tank without Dreamer Cenarius, because it just means you're not actually having to waste your rage on frenzied regen, so you can have much better uptime on your dodge. And with a 30% health as well. Obviously, you lose the 30% health sort of cooldown from frenzied regen because of the redesign. But every druid gets Might of Ursoc now, which basically is exactly that 30%. Maximum health for 30 seconds, 30% for 20 seconds. Sorry. But yeah, I mean, Druid's really the same, like as daft as it sounds. Like in terms of how you actually play a feral tank, outside of managing Dreamer Cenarius procs, which for anyone who don't know, you get it from when you crit with Mangle. and it's a percentage chance. So it increases your healing by healing touch by 20%, increases your crit with Mangle Bear, specifically Bear, by 10%. And you've got a 40% chance when you crit with Mangle to allow you to use healing touch in Bear form, and it scales with attack power. So again, with all of these self-healing abilities as tanks that scales with your vengeance, like you get massive healing touches to the point where, like, if you was desperate and you needed to use frenzied regen, of course you're going to do it. But in most parts, you're probably going to have Dreamer Scenarios procced when you actually need it. It's not like it's going to proc and you're going to go, oh, quick, use it. Obviously you're going to use it when you need it, but then it just allows for much better dodge uptime, being able to weave mauls in even. It's not a bad playstyle. I don't mind tanking as a feral druid, but for me, as I say, it just loses that thing that's made feral so special for, like, Wrath, Cat, even TBC, to be fair. It's the thing that's just made feral really stand out as a solid off tank for all these years. And now it's like, I don't know. I feel like it's lost the default off tank role, because if you've got a feral off tank, if they're going to be the off tank and on a one tank fight they're going to go DPS, you might as well actually have one of the other tanks that are going to do more damage as a tank, and they're going to do more damage when they spec DPS, like a warrior. A warrior, brilliant off tank. It's going to do great damage when it's prot, and then when it switches to arms, you're still keeping that banner, and as an arms warrior, they're going to pump. I think it's a bit of a... It's not the greatest time, unless they really do end up scaling so ridiculously that it's like, feral is just complete god tier, which, I think they'll get strong. I still don't think as strong as prot paladins. I don't know. I don't think it's the greatest to be a feral tank lover, if I'm honest. I know that's not going to please some people, but
yeah, but I do think it's nice though that you don't. I understand why they had to make the change, because, like you said, it is just the default off tank, because, like, it does such a good job at being an off tank. But then the problem is that you have 5 tanks, and if one of them is just such a good off tank, then all of the other tanks would fight for the main tank role, and that doesn't really work either.
Mm-hmm.
So now at least you have maybe some variability in the off tank position, and while there might be some class that will be the best, they won't be that much the best. so you'll definitely see more variability, which I'm definitely all for. Even though it stings a little bit as a feral / guardian, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, I think it's good overall, for sure, for like just tanks in general, that you aren't as much like forced into a specific role. You can just kind of, for like 90% of the player base, still be able to just bring whichever like 2 tanks their tanks like to play, and they'll be fine.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point as well. Like, really important, is that even though I'm saying that I don't think Guardian Druid is particularly good in comparison to what it has been, that don't mean it's not viable. It's perfectly viable. And I said right at the start, like, I still find feral tank fun. I find feral DPS fun. I love Druid as a whole, all specs. Maybe less so Boomy, and that's not just a dig at you, Go. I've just never really been much of a Boomy enthusiast. But I love feral and resto. But it's the same as when we start talking about healers next week. Everyone says Holy Paladin is the weakest healer, and it's like, okay, well, there's always going to be a weaker healer. In every expansion, this is nothing new, but that doesn't mean that class doesn't get played. So you'll see, I don't know, like resto shamans up until
Holy
Dragon
Priest.
Soul were pretty pants, or Holy Priest, yeah, Holy Priest. There's plenty of healers that are not optimal, but they're still viable. And I think when it comes to, but yeah, Guardian is that. It's exactly that. It's viable. If you absolutely love feral tanking, don't let us put you off, or let me put you off. You'll still have a great time, and you'll still be able to clear all the content.
Yes, but I think it's also important to specify that we had this exact same line of thought, or the conversation that, oh well, yes, prot warrior may be the worst tank in Cataclysm, but you're still gonna be able to clear everything, and that's true. But people don't pick it voluntarily, and the Guardian Druid is not that. Like, Guardian Druid is good. It is not a prot warrior in Kata. So I just want to chime in and not make it sound like that's what we're saying. That's, well, you can clear with any tank. You just play whatever you want. But no, like, all tanks are gonna be good. It's not gonna be like in Kata where, like, yes, you can clear with every tank, but you're gonna grief your guild if you do it with a certain one. That's definitely not the case this time around, even though one is going to be stronger than the others.
It's all going to come in my opinion, it's all just going to come down to damage. It's not going to come down to their ability to tank or the amount of damage they take or the amount of damage that they can heal. Like, literally, the thing that's going to separate each tank is going to be which tank's doing the most damage. Because in terms of actually tanking, all of them are great. Like you said earlier, Riyani, they've got 2 types of active mitigation. You're either going to do something to avoid damage or something to heal damage. Every tank is designed exactly the same in MoP. So it is just going to come down to, which one's going to do the most damage, or which 2 are going to do the most damage or bring the most to the raid. But yeah, like you say, none of them would be grief to take to a raid, which is important.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, the gap between number 1 and number 5 is much narrower than Kata. Just whatever you like to play, just play that.
Yeah,
it's nice to hear that.
This whole conversation, like, our next point is, the go-to tanks. Is it time to? I don't know. This word might be a little bit controversial here, but is it time to go into the tier list?
Tier list is definitely controversial. I mean, I think we can put it on a tier list if you want to put it on a tier list, but on the basis there isn't that many. We could probably just rank them in order. And
what?
Five is a high number to count to, Scott.
Yeah, I know it is pretty difficult. But yeah, no. Let's cover our thoughts on what a go-to tank setup will look like in 10 and 25, and even what we're personally going to be using. Because I'm sure both of you, maybe Go less so much, but have been already thinking about what your guild's going to be running tank-wise in MoP. At least for the first phase. So maybe we'll go into that a little bit. Subtle, let's get your opinion first on, like, if you was to hazard a guess, like, right now, like, what do you think, like, I don't want to say meta will be, but I do actually. Let's say, what do you think the meta's going to be?
Yeah, why not?
At this very moment, which absolutely could change, and I don't have all the information right now also, so this might not even be the best opinion right now. With that out of the way, right now we're thinking probably Bloody Gay for main tank, Brewmaster for off tank to start off with for 25 men. And then probably change the Brew into a prop value for Throw Thunder. And probably Siege also. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But, I mean, we kind of talked about earlier too. You kind of want to split them up into main tank and off tank. It doesn't, like, super matter unless you're playing at, like, a higher level, but you're probably going to want either a Bloody K or a Prowler as your main tank. And you're probably going to want a Brewmaster, Prop Eye, or Guardian Druid as your off tank. When you split up like that, that's probably what most people are going to go for, but pretty much any tank configuration will probably be fine. For 10-man, Brew, I think, is more powerful than in 25-man. Just because of, like, the Ox statue, how, like, crazy it is, like, putting these absorbs on everybody. Like, there's so few people in the raid that you could, like, kind of just keep the whole raid, like, fully absorbed, and it's pretty nuts. Brew is for sure going to excel more on the 3+ target fights, and things like Bloody K Prowler will beat it on single target. Most likely, that's what all the data we have right now shows. But anytime there's like 3 or 4 targets, brew is just absolutely insane. And there's plenty of fights like that. You can do a lot of like solo tank cheese as well, especially with Brewmaster. When you do have those multi-targets, you can get tons of healing spheres and just do insane healing and insane absorbs onto your whole raid.
Why, when it comes to 25 man, more like what's the reasoning you've gone with like Blood DK and Prot Warrior specifically as like the main tanks? Like what makes you want to put a Brewmaster as the off tank? Like why does it fit that role better?
More like, yeah, there's just more like single target fights. So they would just be the ones like doing the main tanking the majority of the time. And then the Brewmaster, anytime you got like multi-target, they're, going to be the go-to. So that's just kind of how I'm breaking it up right now.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Again, like I completely agree with you. Like just straight off the rip, I've already mentioned it once tonight. Anyway, our exact setup is already we already know what it is. It's Blood DK Brewmaster. Like we're going to be doing 10. We're going to be doing 10 man specifically, at least for week 1. And then we'll go into 25. But like we've been such a tight knit 10 man for so long now. Like we're not going to change that. But yeah, we'll be running Blood DK Brewmaster with probably a much more emphasis on the Brewmaster being actually the main tank for most fights, and then but it's nice because they're both two. Even though most tanks are similar in terms of active mitigation, they're still 2 very different tanks, that excel in different areas. So on a fight by fight basis, being able to go, oh look, like there's loads of ads on this. The Brewmaster's the main tank. Oh, this is single target. Yeah, the DK is the main tank. And like I said earlier, it's actually really nice being an off tank anyway as a monk, because being able to just go into Tiger stance and get like ridiculously high shuffle before you even taunt, so then you can really just like fucking full pump. It's nice. Riyani, thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely.
I
think that stance dancing is going to be really important. I think it's something I've seen talked about a little bit. I haven't done it too much myself, but I think that is going to be like another level of Brewmaster is like getting that part of it down too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go through my tier list then. So let's start with S tier. 1
Guardian
second
Druid.
GCD Blood DK. Did I say that? Did I mention that before, by the way?
No, I didn't know about the GCD.
Okay, good. Well, okay. So I think that in phase 1, you're going to have 3 tanks that are going to be like the stronger picks. And what you go for as a main tank, I think will largely depend on the fight, and then, if it's 10 or 25 man. I think personally that Bloody K in 10 man is just like wild. For the damage that they bring without having to have a ton of vengeance, kind of hot. Like even if you look at like Stormforge logs right now, like a DK that is not performing like that well is still like pumping harder than most of the top tier Brewmasters, even if they are doing crazy shit to get vengeance. And yes, the statue is nice, but how nice, how many thousands of DPS nice. And compare it then as well to the bloodworm healing as well. The bloodworm healing kind of nice. Like imagine just getting a fat, having that fat worm just splattering that stuff all over your face, and you just take it.
Oh, sorry, as the orgy started.
Yeah. Is this a different podcast?
Yeah, that was such a smooth transition from WoW to orgy. I didn't realize it.
Hey, I'm enthusiastic about my big worms. What can I say? Another perk of the Bloody K. No, but I am slightly less optimistic about the Bloody K in 25-man, honestly. I am still optimistic about them, but I think that there will be a very, very, very good case for a serious guild to run Bloody K and Brewmaster Monk. And say that, okay, well, you're gonna be main tank on some fights and you're gonna be off tank on other fights. Like you're gonna have a great time main tanking on the dogs, for example, on a Brewmaster. You're gonna have a great time tanking on the council style fights in Heart of Fear as a Brewmaster, whereas you might struggle a little bit as a Bloody K. And so having that flexibility and being able to bring both, especially in a racing environment, hot as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
I think Prot Warrior is more of an off tank pick in 25-man at least, and but I still think that Brewmaster is probably better because of the flexibility to be able to swap tanks on a fight-by-fight basis, and that actually being a really, really valuable thing. And then Prop Pally and Guardian Druids, they will get their time to shine later, but I would say, like, if we were to put it into a tier list right now with the information we have, I would say Bloody K, Guardian Druid S tier, Prot Warrior A tier.
You snuck that in, didn't you? No one's even noticed what you said yet.
Yeah, I was like, did he say Guardian Druid?
I compute.
Guardian Druid, Prop Pally, they're like, I don't know, BC.
No, you can't take it back. You just said Guardian Druid is S tier. You literally, you can't take it back now. You've got everyone really excited. I thought you was trolling. I thought you just snuck that in for a laugh. I didn't realise that you didn't realise you even said it.
Is this just Sleepy Yanni? Sleepy
Yeah.
Yanni
It's
coming
midnight,
through?
boys. It's midnight.
Oh man! But
Don't clip it, man. Don't clip it.
I mean, again,
Well,
I don't disagree
okay, so
with
it's-
anything either of you said, because that's my experience personally. My experience personally pretty much mirrors exactly what you said. Looking on Stormforge logs, which, yes, I know it's such a small data size, and the difference of players on there. From you've got really good players practicing, ready for Classic, and then you've got people that I don't even know if they've got hands. Like it's the difference is just mental. But I've been saying for ages now and I'm not just saying it because you two are here. I've genuinely been saying it in videos and on podcasts for ages. I just don't see Blood DK getting like any weaker. If you've got good Blood DKs now, keep them. Don't let them re-roll, because I think in the first phase that it's just the damage, the single target damage that Blood DK puts out is fucking ludicrous, actually. When it's a good DK, in comparison to any of the other tanks, including Brewmaster. Brewmaster on multi-target's amazing, and they've got a great toolkit and all that. But if you're just wanting your tank to absolutely pump, like Blood DK is the way to go.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking through some of the footage from when we're raiding, and just like even the first portion of Elgalon, just running in and pumping like 350k DPS a single target on a Blood DK with like not that high vengeance. Like, what is this? How does this even work? Like, am I just that good? I don't think so. I think it's just the class that is really, really really good.
But Subtle with Elegon, how satisfying is it when the orbs spawn and you press keg smash?
Oh, it's nice, dude. You jump, so you get a little extra range on it. Make sure it hits everything. And oh my god, yeah, it's nice. The keg smash. You do have to be a little bit careful with it sometimes. I almost killed my whole group on Spirit Kings when the MC went out and I keg smashed and almost one shot everybody. So you do have to restrain your power sometimes, but yeah, the keg smash is super fun to pros.
All right, cool. Go. Have you got anything to say at all? It can even be about the weather.
No.
Oh, okay.
I was just trying to see like
Can
single target
Boomy
versus
tank?
AoE. Yeah, but the Panzerkins coming in MoP, and it's going to be shining. But like, so is Prot Warrior more single target or AoE? Is Prot Pally, I would assume, is more AoE. Like, I'm just trying to figure out the better single target tanks for boss fights versus the AoE tanks. It seems
Yeah,
like
so-
Guardian Druid is more AoE.
So you have both Brewmaster and Prot Warrior being insanely good for AoE. Like their ability to scale it very, very well with AoE. And then you have Blood DK. That's like the outlier when it comes to single target damage. But then Guardian Druid actually slaps really hard when you have Cleave. So like if you have fights where you can do mangle spam with your berserk, you just like, and with high vengeance, you kind of like pop pretty hard damage wise. You're gonna see that on like what's it called, Claxy, the Paragon fights, like in SOO. You're gonna be doing some pretty big numbers there. And then Prop Pally, I don't know, I don't feel like they scale super well AoE wise. I don't know, maybe can back me up there, but I actually don't really know what their niche would be if it's like a single target cleave AoE. They
Definitely
they don't feel
become
to be-
super strong AoE. They're like eventually.
Yeah.
I mean, they're strong single target. You know, with being able to take Glyph of Focus Shield. You know, so like you're getting all those procs of Avengers Shield, and it's doing more damage because it's only hitting one target. So, they're kind of okay single target. By the way, I'm not saying that they're strong, but yeah, they're kind of okay single target. But you know, towards the back end of the expansion, it's their AoE is actually kind of fucking disgusting. You know,
No.
just how much AoE damage and healing they can put out. Like you'll see, by the time we're in like full Bisgear and Siege of Orgrimmar, you'll see Prot Paladins soloing Garrosh and topping healing with just having one Disc Priest to back them up. So you'll have like Prot Paladin, Disc Priest, and then 23 DPS. But yeah, I'll be honest with you. Again, just going by personal experience and what I've actually witnessed myself. Prot Paladin, at least in the first phase, I don't think they excel anywhere in terms of damage. You know, it's not like, oh yeah, it's cool when they've got 10 mobs on them, they do loads of damage, or when it's single target, they do loads. They're kind of just like mediocre at both. I don't know what you'd say, Subtle.
Yeah, they just need more haste is like kind of the main thing. So like it'll get better. They'll be the worst they ever are at the beginning of the expansion when they don't have that much haste yet. But from what I've seen, their damage profile is like pretty well rounded. I'm not too sure on like the specifics, but I've seen them do good damage on both single and AoE. So I think they're not super heavily weighted towards one or the other.
What about racials for the tanks? Is there like a mandatory monk, since that's the newest class to come out? Like a mandatory for Horde versus Alliance, but I mean you could be monk for almost any class though, anyways. But
I wouldn't
Or
say there's like a
any race, sorry.
mandatory one, but like Orc is very good because you get the 1% expertise with fist weapons, which is going to be your base every tier. So if I'm remembering correctly, it's like around 600 secondary stat, 1% expertise, something like that. So it ends up just being more secondary stat than like Panda food buff. For Alliance also, 2% dodge from Night Elf is nice. Like we talked about before, you already have Insane Avoidance. You throw 2% more on top of that, you're going to get hit even less. So that's kind of cool. And then like Troll is obviously always going to be the best on any beast fight. The Orc Blood Fury racial, not super impactful. It's, a few thousand attack power at a time when you have hundreds of thousands of attack power from Vengeance. So it's just
expertise there as well. Axe gonna be really good for Bloody Case. So that will be something to keep in mind. And then for Bloody Case specifically, pets are just doing randomly insane damage. And obviously orcs have the pet scaling as well.
command.
which is really, really good.
Yeah, that would be another thing to look at on like beta. Like, are pets supposed to do that much damage, or is it like a little tuned up? So we'll see on that too. But yeah, 5% pet damage potentially very, very good.
An orc in general as
yeah.
well for off spec. Like if you're that guy, you're a brewmaster on a one tank fight, you're gonna go DPS. Then as Windwalker, having Blood Fury to use with Tiger's Eye Brew, and obviously you're still gonna get the expertise for your fist weapons. I rate orc very high for monks specifically.
Yeah, I talked to one of the like best tanks on P server, Diara, about like brewmaster stuff, and Orc was the one he had suggested as well. But I mean, it really just comes down to you want the most secondary. Like secondary is just king in MoP. So yeah, if you're using a fist weapon every single tier anyway, and you're always benefiting from that expertise, then it just is kind of the best.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on Alliance there, Riyani, outside of Night Elf?
Yeah, I've heard that for druids, especially Guardian and Feral druids, that Worgen actually kind of pops off with the 1% crits and becomes even better than Troll, if I'm not mistaken. So that's kind of interesting to have a Alliance class or Alliance race actually be the best option for any spec, which is did not happen in Cata.
It will be the same. It will be the same for Warrior. What Warrior, like Alliance Warriors, will be probably paying for a race change, like back after the expansion to Worgen, just for the crit as well.
Crazy how 1% crit is going to make people pay like $25 to.
People will.
And Blizzard's laughing all the way to the bank.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Well, it's faction change too.
True.
Yeah.
The extra money. Yeah,
too.
faction and race. Yeah. Although
and then server change too, because you're not going to be playing
change.
server on your own server.
Doesn't faction change just give you race change too?
Yeah, it will, won't it? Yeah, it might.
Yeah. But
it probably costs more though.
That you have to do faction change, but then you have to, if you're on Firemaw, you're not gonna play Horde on Firemaw. If you're on Gehennas, you're gonna play Alliance on Gehennas. Yeah.
Unless we get server consolidations, which I am still got. I've still got my fingers crossed for. Okay.
It's crazy those. Like 8 months ago. Those servers are still up. That they were like, hey, these servers are gonna go away like shortly after Cata launch, and they're still there, like Anger Forge and all those ones.
I'm really glad they was, just because completely off topic. I got the heirloom ring from the fishing event ready for my monk. Literally like a month ago or something. So I was really glad those servers were still there.
Yeah, I did that too on one of the dead servers, and then we also did like a Realm First achievement run too on Anger Forge.
Oh, nice.
I got like the Yogs. We got like the Yogs Hero Realm First and the Algalon Realm First because the server had died like when Ulduar came out, so nobody just ever got them.
Oh, that's really cool. All right, so look, we've had an overview of each tank. We spoke about beta a little bit. We've gave our thoughts on the go-to tank setups. We'll touch on the raids. I don't want to keep anyone here too long. How long have we been going for? It's been a few hours. So let's keep it quite brief, but like tank mechanics in general in raids. So like, do you think they're more interesting than Cata? Is there any that stand out? I'm guessing there's probably one particular one that stands out for every tank because, it stands out for me. I absolutely love it as a tank. But yeah, what do you think about the opening raid tier for tanks?
I feel like it's pretty good. You get some unique stuff to do. There's some cool solo tanks you can do. I mean, on Fang, the second boss in Mogushan, you've got like the 2 tank mechanics. There's like it's essentially like an AMZ you get for the fight that you can drop. And then the other one is like a Dark Simulacrum kind of thing that you can use to like take some of the boss's abilities and use them against them. So that's kind of cool, like unique mechanics like that. And then in Heart of Fear, there's like it's like a Putricide kind of thing. I only did it once, so I can't totally remember it, but like you get in like the A bomb and you have to like interrupt the boss, but you also have to interrupt yourself. And it was kind of interesting, but at the same time, like I think on classic Foji's just gonna tell you exactly what to do, and you're not really gonna need to do anything on that fight. So,
Everyone's
but,
gonna love
yeah,
Amber Shaper.
Yeah.
Vehicle
in general, it's pretty fun
fights.
though. I had a lot of fun doing some of the solo tank stuff on Baru. Just like crazy damage and healing.
You've not said my favorite tank fight. Riyani, your turn. Well, any standout fights?
I'm trying to think of which one it is that you're referring to.
Will of the Emperor, you get to do your little dance. Get to do that big swing.
Will of the Emperor heroic.
Put on the dancing shoes.
Dude, that's gonna be one where like people just hate their tanks on that fight if they can't do it. It's gonna be like Nefarian. Like the Nefarian ad taking phase one. I actually do like a lot of people that end up quitting the game because they just like couldn't do that. And like this is gonna be another one of those things where like if your tank can't do the dance on Emperor, you're just they might just quit.
I love that fight as well. I love it as a tank because I love doing the tank dance. As I say, especially on heroic when you've got to do 10 of them. But I like people in chat, like Lee's in chat, who's our tank. He'll just see me randomly pop up as a Mistweaver as well. Like I just go over and do it as anything. I don't care. Like I'm going and doing the dance no matter what class I am. It's free damage, and as a Mistweaver, I'm so mobile when I'm healing anyway. It don't matter. I just go and stand with a tank, and it literally destroys my soul when I'm doing it as a healer and healing the raid and not getting hit, and then the tank gets hit next to me. I'm like, oh man, come on. But it's I love that fight. So good guess. Well done. You can carry on now.
Yeah, that's a kind of a cool fight. I think it's a little bit annoying at times to do as a blood DK because you have such limited movement speed. But I mean, you figure it out and you're like, okay, I'm never gonna fail it again. You do it for a few times and like, okay, all right, if I'm asleep at the wheel, I might get it, in the fourth week of re-clears, like, oh shit. But during progression, once you're done figuring it out, you're never gonna getting hit again. And then you can stack the bosses up for a little bit, do some cleave, and then take him back out, stuff like that. Do some mid-max stuff. And yeah, dude, Amber Shaper, Blizzard, stop it. Don't do it anymore. We don't like vehicles. Nej. För helvete. Skit i det. That shit is so annoying. I hate vehicle fights. Just let me play my character mount. Apart from that, there's some pretty fun mechanics like you were talking about in Motion Vaults. I think Motion Vaults is honestly like one of the better raids in the first tier, especially as a tank. There's a lot of agency, a lot of stuff that you do really matters, and it's a good time.
Yeah, I feel like they put a lot of effort into Mogusham Vaults for tanks, and then for the other two raids, they were like, "Oh fuck them, they've had their raid," like and then you almost get ignored. I mean, another fight that I really like, not necessarily from a tank perspective, don't get me wrong, because you haven't really got anything to do at all, but Garrelon in Heart of Fear is a just mechanically like quite a fun fight. But overall, I don't like Heart of Fear, by the way. It's not my cup of tea. As I say, it's out of the 3 raids in the first phase, I definitely would say it's the worst.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I only ran it once, so it's hard for me to say. I definitely liked MSV though. Doing like solo tank, brewmaster on the stone guards first boss, super fun to just do crazy, cleave damage and healing. And then Fang, kind of interesting. Garrisdal, kind of cool that like maybe other tanks can do it too. I'm not sure, but like brewmaster can solo like the down phase, so that's kind of fun. Just like zooming around and like touch of death is actually like relevant there, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I think you're gonna be able to
MSV
solo
is-
tank every single boss in there except the last and the totem boss, right?
Yeah, Garagel, you just need someone
Uh,
just to tank while you get sent
yeah,
down, but that's it. I mean,
yeah.
solo tanking week 1 Spirit King's heroic might be a bit of a push as well. I'm not saying you're not going to be able to do it. I'm sure you will.
That's what we
but-
did for 10 man. I'm not sure how it'll be on 25 man. I've heard a lot of people do it week 1 on 25 man, but
Yeah,
at the same time,
if
like
you
you're
you're probably not going to do it though. Would be my guess, especially
Yeah.
in a racing environment where you like
yeah,
want to
you
reduce
just
the
want
margin
safe
for error.
strats. Yep.
on 10 man,
Um,
we was doing it with one tank for well, as in during progress on Stormforge. We was running one tank for loads of pulls, 20 odd pulls, whatever, and then we switched to 2 tanks, and it like fell over in no time. Like the difference it makes just having that second tank is just massive. But yeah, again,
Yeah,
you know, it could be
once-
different in
what-
classic.
Once the raid like understands the fight, it really kind of is the tank gonna stay alive? If they do, you kill it. So
Yeah.
week 1 definitely makes more sense to over tank it.
And a priest having master spell glyphed as well. That's the biggest
Yeah.
thing, which took us far too long to realize.
Yeah. But the one thing to mention about tanks as well, which is kind of which I don't think we talked about at all, is obviously movement is really highly valued in MoP, and I think even on Spirit King specifically as well. When the last boss is at high rage, you can just get one tap like real easy, but you can just kite it.
Mhm.
So movement speed is really good, but if you're like a Blood DK, like, okay, well, I have my 30% movement speed with Death's Advance. Well, you also have a bunch of priests and monks that can give you really high value movement speed. And at a very low cooldown as well. So if you can communicate with your raid, you can get a lot of movement speed from your raid, and it will be a good tool to keep in your belt. And remember that it's there because it will be needed in certain cases.
Yeah, Tiger's Lust from monks, Feathers from
Yep.
priests. I mean, Feathers, especially if you macro it, as in, so you've got it at a specific target, so it just drops it at their feet. Like, is really good. And again, it's one of
Very
those,
good.
isn't it? It's just the toolkits for all the classes get so much more well-rounded, and there's lots of cooldowns that it's going to take people time to realize, oh yeah, shit, I could be getting this from this person, I could be getting something else from this person, like choosing the right, every class in the raid choosing the right talents for that specific boss. This is why I've said for so long that on the face of it, the new talent system looks pretty shit. Don't it? Let's be honest. When you look at it and it's like, oh, you just get one choice every 15 levels. To someone who don't really remember the raiding or hasn't done the raiding, would probably all think it looks shit. But then when you actually start raiding and realize how impactful like multiple rows are, and using the right ones on a fight by fight basis, you change them so frequently. And I love that personally.
Yeah, I recently did a review video of Mr. Banderia where I talked about the talents a little bit, and one of the things that stand out for me as a Bloody King is that my talents are not very flexible. Like I don't have that much that I'm going to be flexing in my talents at all. But in Kata, I had between 7 and 10 different talent trees that I ran. That was all the most optimal for me at the time, depending on my goals. So in that way, it might be a rare outlier, but I actually get way less flexibility with this system than I did with the Kata one. Whereas a lot of people with the Kata system just it locks in one talents and they're done with it. There's no flexibility at all.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because I said exactly the same in a DK video recently. I said I feel like in the talent redesign in MoP, DK just got the short end of the stick. It was your level 90 talents being CC. I know mass grip's great, don't get me wrong, and yeah, it's great, but it don't seem worthy of being a level 90 talent. When you look at what other classes are getting option-wise for level 90 talents, it's, yeah, the DK ones, I also thought that. And, not being a DK expert, not spending any, like, a very tiny percentage on a DK compared to you, I looked at them very briefly. It didn't take me long to be like, shit, I mean, I'm never not going to take that talent. I'm never not going to take this talent. I'm never, it is quite set, in a raiding environment, what you're going to use. And there might be other classes that end up exactly like that, to be honest. But I still think the majority of classes will be changing. Yeah, will be changing talents quite regularly. Cool.
I know this wasn't on our talking points, but you got me thinking now. In pre-patch, are there any tanks that are gonna not have access to an important ability or anything like that?
Brewmaster
talents.
Brewmaster, yeah.
No, Russian
Brewmaster
Jadewind.
not having Rushing Jadewind is like the clear winner. I don't even have to look at anything else. Like it's like one of your most important abilities, and you just won't have it. So it was kind of funny too, because in Wrath pre-patch, Wrath prop I was missing a lot of stuff in pre-patch compared to like later. Like glyphs and some talents and stuff, and like Shield of the Righteous, even level 75. And like I was hyping up Prop Alley and Wrath so much, like leading up to Wrath, and then everybody was playing it in pre-patch. They're like, what the fuck is this? You lied to me. Like this feels so bad compared to the other tanks. And like a big issue too was a lot of warriors were putting vigilance on Prop Allies, and they had no clue that like even existed, or like didn't know they were getting their threat reduced by that. And so there's this whole combination of things, but like probably was so bad in pre-patch compared to what it got to, which is once you hit level 80. And like, I mean, Brewmaster is going to be probably not to that extreme, but not having Rushing Jadewind feels real bad. Like the class really unlocks once you have that.
Yeah, I agree. Kind of a bummer that they put it as a level 90 talent, because it feels like such a core part of the Brewmaster that should have been like an ability that you get leveling up.
And I think prop Paladin and prop Warrior won't be missing much. Them, if we're just talking strictly tanks, prop Warrior and prop Paladin, as prop Warrior, you're going to lose blood buff, like kind of whatever. Yeah, it's nice, extra damage. Prop Paladin, your level 90 talents are just kind of a bonus, aren't they? It's not like something you're going to rely on. Not like Russian Jadewind. And what, Guardian Druid? Yeah, not having Dreamer Scenarius. I mean, that the level 90 talents on a Guardian Druid are particularly good, to be fair.
But then while leveling up, you don't really care about that.
No, it doesn't matter. No, but if we're talking like pre-patch, it'll be interesting to see like pre-patch Dragon Soul, 30% nerf. What the tanks are actually doing, and what tank's going to be.
That's going to be silly as hell.
Which I think with the right gear, I think Prop Pally in the pre-patch could be actually insane when you think about it, with all the stat scaling being off and getting loads of haste.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're going to have end of expansion haste levels. Like, I think Prop Pally is going to be nuts in pre-patch for sure. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get mine as prop ready for the pre-patch just to play about with it, because I reckon it probably will be possibly the strongest.
But I mean, Bloody Key, I don't know.
Has it got a global cooldown? Has something changed? I don't know. I don't really know a lot about DK.
1.5 maybe? No,
that doesn't sound right. No. I'm sure Go told everyone earlier, didn't he? What is it, Go? What's the global cooldown for a DK?
0.69, I think.
0.69?
Yeah.
Oh, 69. That makes sense.
0.69.
Nice.
All right. Anything else? So that's raids. But I want one last thing, and this mainly just want to hear from Subtle, because this is something that you do a lot of, soloing old content, and it's a question I've had recently. That's why I was like, I'll see what Subtle thinks. What do you think's going to be the best tank for going back and getting old transmog gear and farming pets, mounts from raids? Thoughts?
Prop Pally and Blood DK are like the two that definitely jump off the page. Prop Pally, especially because of like Divine Shield being able to ignore some mechanics that like Blood DK might not be able to. Blood DK will be able to like AMS some things. I mean, the survivability is going to be crazy on both for sure. Anything where you can actually keep alive a few mobs, Brewmaster is going to be amazing. But the amount of damage you're going to be doing, you're most likely like killing the extra things that are giving you that one chi from Rushing Jadewind. So, I mean, if there's a fight where you can consistently get like 3+ target Rushing Jadewind, like Brewmaster would be great. Prop Alley, I know, is very, very good on P server for soloing things. One thing, too, is that Berserk timers don't actually really matter anymore for soloing. Right now, they're like, and in Wrath, they've been like the most important thing. Like pretty much every solo isn't about whether you can survive. It's about can you do enough damage to like beat the Berserk timer. But that kind of goes away in MoP. Like there's certain Berserk effects where it's just an instant wipe no matter what. Like Ultraxion, for example. But any Berserk that's just like the boss does 800% more damage or whatever, you can actually just survive that now, which is pretty crazy. Because like, you know, more damage you take, more damage you do, more healing you do. So you can actually take bosses like deep into their Berserk if you need to. And it'll actually help you kill the boss quicker too. So yeah, I've seen really good things from Prop Alley solos on P server. But Bloody Key is always great for solos too, but I would say one of those two for sure.
Do you do much in that regard, Riyani?
Yeah, so actually it's kind of funny because in Mist of Pandaria, like, well, OG Mist of Pandaria and Kata, and even Draenor a little bit, I was one of those people that had a twink character, as it's called. And this is not relating to the whole orgy stuff, you know. This is you know, when you cap out a character and get it as powerful as possible with low gear levels. And in original Mist of Pandaria, there was some really, really interesting stuff that you could do with these characters that allowed you to solo content that you couldn't even do on your level 90 character. You know, there's a clip of someone soloing Elgalon at level 80 when MoP was current content. You know, and I think a lot of that stuff was fixed. But I think it'll be fun to go in and deep dive a little bit with the twinking stuff, because there's some funky interactions with item level, and you basically gaining a % damage buff when you have higher item level items. And there is some really weird items that just like have insanely high item level, but for some reason have like Wrath Lich King levels of required levels to wear. And you know, like trinkets from rares in Mist of Pandaria that just randomly doesn't have an item level or a level requirement, but because it has a an item level that's really high, it just gives randomly really high percentage of damage. So I think that'll be cool to play around with. But I do think, like Stella was saying, I think Bloody K is probably a little bit nicer because you do so much more damage with low vengeance. But if it's like the enrage time we're talking about, I think Pali's probably nicer. Eternal Flame is super good. But yeah, we'll see. I'm gonna play around with some solos in MoP. I think that'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing the same, and I've started doing it now, to be honest. I am going to be doing it on a Brewmaster just because, like, I'm going to be doing everything on Monk, even if the Paladin is going to be able to do certain things I can't do on a Brewmaster. But I was soloing Blackwing Descent, which was quite fun, and that's not even with particularly good gear either. Like, we're not, I think I've only raided on. It was my second Monk. It's only got like maybe 2 or 3 items from raids, and the rest is like pre-raid bis. But when you was talking about the twinking stuff, yeah, some of the blues, which is it's a good like public service announcement that you need to keep an eye out, because some of the BOE like world drops or items, like they might even drop from trash in a dungeon. They'll be for level 80. They'll be for level 80, and they'll have like 409 item level. You know, they'll be literally like Dragon Soul heroic item level that you can use at level 80. Like they're insanely powerful. So yeah, there are some particularly good ones. Twinking was massive in MoP back in original MoP. I feel like it's a bit of a dying art nowadays. I might just be sort of ignorant to it, but you know, I always every expansion I used to have like a level 19 Twink Rogue or Twink Hunter. You know, sometimes going as high as like 39. I know that's not exactly what you was talking about. I know, you know, not really relevant for soloing content, but just twinking in general used to be a huge. There used to be like loads of people would do it. There was like full twink guilds that would just go in and destroy battlegrounds for fun. Like, I kind of miss that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was good times. Good times.
I wanted them to add an NPC to cut off XP in SoD so that I'd be able to do that. Like we could have a level 25, like 5-man or something, and then do BFD as a 5-man instead of 10. But yeah, without being able to cut off XP, it kind of screws that in SoD. You can do it, but then you're gaining XP every time you kill a boss. So like by the time you're done with BFD, you're already level 26. So it's just like
can we sorry, I know like you've not really said that much recently, but can we keep this to World of Warcraft?
I had to
stuff,
say
please?
something about SoD, man. It's been an hour since I've said anything. So
yeah, but this is a World of
about SoD.
This is a World of Warcraft podcast. I don't know what this SoD is that you're even keep bringing up. Like, is it a Final Fantasy like expansion or something?
It's Pokemon.
It's Pokemon. Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Pokemon go to the polls.
All right. Anything else before we close out? Because I've really enjoyed that. Honestly, and I've got to be honest with you, there were so many things that like between the two of you that you mentioned where I was like, oh shit, yeah, like I forgot about that, or yeah, like there's been a lot of information there in only 3 hours and 15 minutes. Like that was. I think pretty thorough. Hopefully everybody watching agrees. There was a lot of tank info there.
Pretty good for a half episode that we have today.
Pretty good for part one.
Nice little mini.
Yeah,
little teaser.
All right, okay. Let's go round. So, Riyani, where can people find you? And what can they expect from the future? Even like you said, you're going to start doing more stuff like Wowhead writing. Outside of just DK, so like what can people expect?
Yeah, so I feel like nowadays you don't have to give too much of a disclaimer of who you are and where to find you, because you have like 5 or 6 content creators for the current classic version of the game, but I'm on YouTube. Riyani Wow, we're getting pretty close to 10k subs. That's really cool. Originally when I was making my channel, I'm like, dude, if I make it to 10k subs, I'm quitting my job. I'm becoming a full-time YouTube streamer, whatever. And yeah, that's not happening.
It's getting too close now, and you're like, oh, maybe at 25k.
yeah. Looking at the ad revenue, I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe 25k, huh? But yeah, YouTube, Riyani Wow, and on Twitch, Riyani TV. Just type something in the chat there. You can just click the name, Riyani TV. Stream every so often. They're gonna be streaming the hell out of the beta. So that'll be fun. And I'm also the Bloody K writer for Wowhead. So expect a lot of Bloody K stuff for Mr. Pandaria, and I'm probably gonna be that person spending the most time on the entire planet, thinking, dreaming, and eating Bloody K. So we'll have some great conversations, discussions, whatever else on stream and on YouTube or whatever else. Awesome. And then I do a bunch of other Wowhead stuff. I'm taking over the tier list on Wowhead. So
that seems like a bit of a cursed chalice, mate. I don't know if you want to talk about
if you really want to hate me,
As long as you put Guardian Druid S+.
Well, he's already said it's S tier, so you can't take that back. Like if the Wowhead tier list goes out and Guardian Druid's not S tier, well, he just flat out came on a podcast and lied. Like that's not acceptable.
The amount
Who
of clicks
would lie
that
on the
page
internet?
Regenerate.
Yeah, no one lies on the internet. No, that's amazing, mate. And yeah, everyone go and sub over. The link's in the description. So to both of these handsome gentlemen, go and get him to 10k. So make sure you go over and give him a sub. And speaking of sub, you must have liked that one, Go, surely.
The B is silent, so speaking of I guess I don't.
I can't win with you.
You're almost there. You're almost there.
It was a quite subtle transition.
It was a very subtle transition. Very good. Where can people find you, and what can I expect?
So that's actually one of the fun things about playing Classic versus like back in the day. People always called me Subtle back in the day, and as people got older, they just learned how to pronounce the word, and nobody really
Scott
calls me
didn't.
that anymore. So that's been one of the
I
weird
didn't, yeah.
differences this time around. But Subtle FW on Twitch and YouTube. I'm gonna be doing lots of Brewmaster Prop Alley stuff for MoP. If we get into the beta, maybe then I'll be streaming lots of that. If I don't get into the beta, I will not be streaming lots of MoP beta. But if you're looking for tank content, Riyani streams like more in the morning my time. I stream at night my time. So we're doing full coverage, making sure you got some tank stuff to watch at all times. Normally I stream at 6 p.m. Pacific on to like 10 p.m. ish if you want to check that out. And yeah, lots of Monk and Prop Alley MoP videos coming out soon.
Oh, during the beta, it'd be great if we done some like collab streams, like between all of us. Where I've not actually even used that feature on Twitch once, so I don't even know how it works. But yeah, like we could do some pre-raid gearing and stuff like that. That'd be cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll tune in and watch you and Riyani do it. Well, I don't have beta.
No,
live vicariously through us.
You're gonna get beta. I have faith. Okay,
fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
But the same goes for Subtle. Obviously, make sure you go over and sub to Subtle as well. And Go.
You can find me here next week with.
I didn't
you,
even
Scott,
sound happy to ask you. Like on Go.
With some healers next week. We have planned healer discussion. We got the tanks out of the way, doing healers, and then we're going to move on to the DPS. So yeah, you can just find me here with the homie Scott and some amazing guests like Subtle and Riyani.
And I've got to say, and I don't want anyone to be offended by this at all, like because I'm sure I know both the guests are fantastic streamers, and there's some fantastic streamers on the interweb. But I have not been as entertained recently as I was watching Go stream on YouTube. So make sure you go and sub to Go on YouTube because he started raiding on SoD at about 1 a.m. my time. I was laid in bed, ready to go to bed. I was still there awake at like 5 a.m. because watching him wipe over and over and over again with a load of YouTubers was absolutely phenomenal. Like I might be a little bit sadistic and just enjoy watching other people in pain, but watching him just lose his shit on every pull was just generally really entertaining. So thanks, Go.
I appreciate that, Scott. I appreciate that. Yeah, I stream Season of Discovery stuff on on YouTube. I don't really do the Twitch or the Kick stuff. So yeah, it's just mainly YouTube. I used to make videos. I've been kind of getting away from the video creating stuff because it would take me 8 hours to make a video. And I was just like, I'd rather just play the game, and hang out with the boys. Maybe girl every now and then. You never know. I think those exist in classic WoW. I'm not sure.
Unicorns, mate.
It's one of the options on the character select screen, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm obviously a female Tauren, so.
Okay, that's great, guys.
I
thank you for coming on. You can carry on just talking amongst yourselves while I just let the because obviously YouTube's normally behind, so I don't want to cut anyone off. But whilst you just chat for a minute, before we end it, I'll put all of your links to all your channels in Twitch and Kick as well. Yeah.
So whose place are we doing the orgy at? Did we decide on that?
The Marriott, I think, right?
Probably Riyani because he's sleepy on you right now. So I think we need him to already be home, so he can just go to bed right after it.
Yeah. It's gonna be a bit of a kind of rough doing it over here though. Like instead of me taking the hit and traveling, over to you guys, all three of you have to travel over here, and that's kind of a bummer, I gotta look out for
I mean,
you
I
guys.
already bought the ticket, so.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Subtle's committed.
I'm
Yeah.
really glad
yeah,
that
for
we
sure.
got to finish the podcast by talking about the orgy that I've been waiting for since it got brought up within the first 5 seconds of the podcast. So thanks, guys.
No problem. Glad I could help.
Good night, everyone.
yeah.
Oh, so out of
Good
sync.
night, good
Oh
night.
my god, that was so out of sync.
We could
I couldn't
try
do
we
the
could
thing
try
again.
again. We could try again.
We had
Do
the
the
perfect
solo.
wave.
Oh, you had the perfect. No,
Yeah, I was
do